I hope to everyone's surprise, you realize it comes out to 14.5%. Only 14.5% of the legitimate registered voters in Vernon signed the referendum petition. Then, if those were all dedicated people, I would have thought they would have shown up at the public meeting. However, I'm estimating about 125 people actually showed up there, even if you go as high as 200, which is a real stretch. You divide that number by 5524, we come up with 2.0%. That's the percentage of people who had the incentive, the motivation, and the desire to fight this border agreement. So 98% of the town of residents qualified voters. Number one, either they didn't care one way or the other, or number two, they basically approved of what the former board did. I don't think we should spread anything to the effect any further about how the voters were not informed, they were abused, and had no right, they didn't get to know the facts, where they had a right to know the facts. I think these numbers tell the whole story. So there's no ifs or ands about that. The third item I have concern with is we've got sitting in this room a decorated Vietnam veteran. This man, as long as I've known him, which is probably close to 10 years, has done nothing but good for this town. Most recently, as a board member, diligently watching the budget, watching items he felt were misbilled. He did his homework, came forward, verified he was correct. And basically, this man, when the fire department was split, he and several others went over the books concerning the fire board itself. And lo and behold, it turned out they were saving $180-some thousand versus the prior year before he got involved. Where did that money go? We'll never know, folks. But there was $180 grand in monies we could not account for the year before he got involved to help audit those books. He contributed to the town in other ways: fire commission chair, fire commission member, ordinance committee, helped clean up a lot of issues we had going on in the town where things were ambiguous. There were things going on where people on the board would be doing things without board approval. That's happened numerous times. And I just take my hat off to him. And to see this man being under the gun of a recall is horrific, absolutely horrific. A decorated veteran. Today, we're celebrating Omaha Beach, the veterans who died, the veterans who are still living. We respect them. This man should receive no less. It's pathetic that this town will even consider tolerating the nonsense of recalling this individual. He's been nothing but a positive asset to the board and to the town. So I hope some people take that to heart. Bad news. By the way, I haven't heard one legitimate reason for the recall other than he approved of publishing the newsletter, which certain people didn't care for some responses in there, but he was only one of a board. We all voted in favor of publishing that newsletter. He did nothing that the rest of us didn't do.
Mr. Craig, it's 3-minute limit. You're up against your limit, please.
I just have one more item here. We should all know, and the taxpayers, every one of them should know, the cost of the referendum was about $4,400. And this nonsensical recall, if this does happen, I'd like to know with a lot of other taxpayers, what's the projected cost of that? It can't be, most likely not less than $4,400 for nonsense, absolute nonsense. We need some good leadership.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Mr. Singer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the agenda before you tonight. And there's a lot of important things on there, but item 7B is of my concern right now. And before your discussion, I would like to have in front of me a copy of that resolution as the board votes on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further, any other public comments at this time?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I'm Jim Pepper, South 66, West 25070 Skyline Avenue. And also about item 7B, the resolution for the border agreement. As you consider whether you approve or reject that current border agreement, I studied a little bit the state guidelines on annexation, and with that border agreement, the conditions of it are fixed and have to be abided by. Without a border agreement, well, then all bets are off. And which means if enough residents would be persuaded, you could lose Hidden Lakes. You could lose a whole lot more than that border agreement encompasses. And my question to this board is, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to sacrifice a good portion of the town? Because the town, as a town, really has no leverage. If enough residents can be convinced that it's in their benefit to be absorbed into the village of McWanago, or into New Berlin, or into any of the other incorporated communities around us, we have no leverage, no way to stop it. So I guess my question, and I have not got an answer yet, and I've asked it numerous times, what is the end game? I don't know what the incentive is for the current town board to try and throw out that resolution that was put together by the previous town board. I don't know what is in it for them. But, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I just can't figure it out why you'd risk losing the town when you have a current agreement that can be enforced. And the only other way to enforce our borders would be to incorporate as a village of some sort, which would cost money. And all you have to do is look at the town of Brookfield and ask them how they like being a town. Because the town of Brookfield used to be quite a bit larger than it is today. It got absorbed from all the communities around it. And it had no say in it. I grew up in the city of Greenfield. When I grew up, it wasn't a city of Greenfield, it was a town of Greenfield. The city of Greenfield today is a fraction of what the town of Greenfield was at one time in 1950 when I was born. Greenfield incorporated as a city in 1957 to protect its borders. It had no leverage, and piece by piece got eaten away. So I think this is smoke and mirrors, and I have yet to get a credible answer from anybody that we want to get rid of this resolution and this is what we're going to do. That hasn't happened anywhere. When I've asked a direct question or things I've read, comments, everybody has a criticism for what the previous board did. I've heard no suggestions. Okay, criticism is empty to me if you have no solution. Okay, it's easy to criticize, but if you have no solution, don't criticize. So that's what I have to say. Does anybody want to comment back? I would like to hear
We're not permitted to comment, and
Okay.
it's on the agenda, and we'll have a discussion when we hit that agenda point.
Fair.
Evening, this is Marie Kumarshek on Hilo Drive. I just want to respond to one of the comments up here. One of the gentlemen said 14.5% was represented for, to be against the cooperative agreement between the village and the town. Well, if you take that's 900 people signed a referendum, 884 people voted against it. There were 200 at that meeting by his own lips said, and they did not want it. He took the 14.5% to represent the town, and I look at 5 people that voted on that, and that percentage was 0.000009 that you represented, and 14.5% is a lot more than that. Thank you.
Further? Yes, Eddie, come up. Thank you.
Sandy Palisello, Green Mountain Drive. A review of the town records indicates that since 1905, the village of McWanago has annexed 836 acres from the town of Vernon. That is over a 114-year period. Why are we giving them approximately 4 times that amount of land in a boundary agreement? Please listen to your constituents and do not approve the boundary agreement resolution this evening. I'm going to reiterate what Marie just stated with her figures. 90 people to vote in favor of the boundary agreement that's all you could drum up. If it's so good for us, why couldn't you drum up more support? An editorial in Saturday's Waukesha Freeman, written by Ed Moline, says that he believes that our right to vote is our most important liberty. He goes on to say, and I quote, "Far too often we see people vote for issues or candidates which they know nothing about. This greatly dilutes our ability to govern effectively." So it's your most important liberty, unless of course you don't agree with him. I would expect an elected official to respect the vote of the people, even when it does not align with your own beliefs. If you cannot do that, maybe it is time to step down.
Thank you. Mr. Riley?
Joe Riley, South 67 West 24425 Skyline Avenue. With more specificity, since this is June the 6th of 2019, 75 years ago you had Normandy, and you're talking about Ed Moline, and with greater specificity, just what did he do in Vietnam? He did enough, okay, to win 2 bronze, and you're awarded 2 Bronze Stars with V for Valor. I don't know if there's anybody in this entire town that's been decorated that way in battle. Secondly, he was also wounded and has a Purple Heart. When you vote your conscience. You vote what you think is right. And you can at times be misinformed. And in some cases, a large number of people, generated by fear, can make a mistake. Secondly, Mr. Peppers talked about the end game. What is the end game? The end game, everybody's heard, we either do nothing and just bide our time, or we incorporate. What they don't tell you is that's a euphemism. It's just like saying, I'm not going to increase taxes, but we're going to have revenue enhancement. Okay? You think about it. What you're talking about is a merger. If you take a look at the state statutes, the only way you can incorporate is to somehow provide, again, your residents with a number of things that really are going to cost money, okay? Including 10% of the people, you have to provide them with sewer. The only way you can do that is to merge in some way. That's my take on it. This community voted 2-1 not to merge with Big Bend about 2 decades ago. As I said, the present board, think about it. What is your end game? You ought to address that at the next meeting, Mr. Chairman, if you would, please. I'd be highly interested. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Further comments? Okay, no further public comments. I need to announce a possible closed session. Consideration and possible action on a motion to convene into executive session under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, sub 1, sub C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically the performance evaluation of the assistant fire chief and DPW employee. Included in closed session will be the Town of Vernon supervisors, DPW director, Vernon fire chiefs, and town clerk. The motion will require a roll vote, which we'll do later in the agenda. Okay, we're starting with the first item, 7A, audited 2018 Town of Vernon financial statements with the town auditor, who's here, Howard. Welcome, and Finance Committee in the audience, and the town board.
My name is Howard Jeanson. I'm the audit partner with Rotroff Jeanson & Company. We've done the audit now for a number of years. This was actually the final year of our 3-year contract, which is something we're going to have to talk about down the road, but not tonight. But we have an unusual firm in that I come out and actually do the work. There aren't too many firms that do that. And one of the things that was asked of us several years ago was, could we reduce our fee if you did the audit a little bit later? And we were happy to do that, and I think it was a win-win situation, and we'd be very open to that again. But one thing I did want to mention is, it is June, and it's the audit now. But when I left here a while back, Karen had all of my adjusting journal entries so that she could update her books internally and present the board with pretty accurate financial statements that almost mirror my audit. Okay? So it's not like this is the first time these numbers are being brought forward. They are now in a bound book with my signature on them. But as far as getting information timely, the town has had this information quite a while. That is different from other firms that I understand, where you have somebody come in here, do the audit, go back, have a manager review their work, then it goes to a partner, and eventually the journal entries get funneled back at the very end of that. So I just wanted to point that out. You pay good money for about 2 sentences in this whole report. It's a 37-page report, but we're paid to give our opinion on the financial statements. So I'm just going to take just a moment, and it's 2 pages in here, and just read a few sentences so you get the feel of what this is. Number 1, it's headlined Independent Auditor's Report. We are not management. We can provide recommendations, but in no way do we step into management's shoes and make decisions or anything else. Whenever I have an adjustment that I think should be made, I give it to Karen. She reviews it. She will initial off and say, yes, she agrees with that, and then she will post it. I won't literally touch the town's books. So this is addressed to the town board. Dear board members, we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Vernon, Wisconsin, as of and for the year ended December 31st, 2018, and the related notes to the financial statements, which collectively comprise the town's basic financial statements as are listed in the table of contents. Management's responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements. They are the town's financial statements. Our responsibility is to express opinions on them based upon our audit. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinions. In our opinion, the financial statements that you have referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Vernon as of December 31st, 2018. Then, the next page of our report, there's a heading that says emphasis of a matter. As discussed in note 1 to the financial statements, the town of Vernon adopted the provisions of GASB statement number 75. GASB is an acronym for Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Our oversight that basically governs how municipal financial statements look, how audits should be performed, and what disclosures should be made. They added another one that had to take effect at the beginning of the year. It's called GASB 75, which related to other post-employment benefits. And their concern was that there were liabilities out there that were not being put on governmental entities' financial statements. In particular, the one that applied to the town is a life insurance benefit and our oversight board, I think, and I know I'm on TV, so I gotta be careful. I'll make it be John for just a second. I think they sit in a room thinking of things for us to do. I really do. You've got a footnote in the back that's a page long regarding the town's $6-some million of fixed assets. They came up with this other post-employment benefits, and it added 4 pages to the footnotes. And you can read them from pages 27 to page 30, and they represent a liability of $44,000. So it's like they just went out of their way to say what the disclosures had to be made for this, for so very little. But they felt it was necessary. You hear of these off-balance sheet kind of liabilities, and for some communities, this could turn out to be something very major. And the idea is that employees who are have life insurance provided to them, they get a value for that, and because of the plan that they're in, this is my understanding of this, so just take that for that, is that if the premiums continue to be paid until age 65, whether by the municipality or the employee, they will receive a death benefit until after the age of 65. It's a reduced value, and it can be greatly reduced, but someone has to pay for that. And in this case, they're saying they had actuaries come in and do studies, and their pay grade is much above mine, and they came up with these numbers that were directly from the state of Wisconsin that have this liability on the books. We had to put a paragraph in our report saying that that's brand new this year. So our audit report is dated May 22nd, 2019. It was the last day when we concluded and got our last piece of information. I'm going to touch on just a few of the 37 pages that are here. And I'm going to start with page 3, which is the statement of net position. There are 2 sets of books going on here. That's what GASB did. They created about in 2004. They said, we want you to look at the municipalities as one. Don't divide them up between funds. Treat them more like a business and say the town as a whole, not by departments or anything else. And besides that, we're going to, like a business, if you go out and buy a $750,000 fire truck, you're going to capitalize it and depreciate it over the life of that asset. Same thing with the roads. You go out and spend $250,000 on roads, which happened this year. You're going to depreciate that over the life that you expect those roads to last. That shows up in this schedule, the long-term assets and depreciation. Whereas when you get to the fund statements, you go out and spend $250,000 on roads, it's an expenditure that year. You spent the money, it's gone. You did the work last year, it's out the door. It's an expense. Conversely, long-term liabilities are showing up on this page. They don't on the fund statements. They show up here, they say you go out and borrow $500,000, it's a liability you owe the bank, which only makes sense. On the fund statements, if you borrow that $500,000, it would go to the bottom line into surplus, almost like a quasi-revenue. So you got long-term items here. And so all I'm going to touch on right now is that at the end of 2019, and it's like the 6th, 7th numbers down here, you had land invested of $534,000, and you had capital assets net of depreciation of $5.1 million. So you had about $5.6 million in hard assets at the end of the year. What was done during the year is that there was road work of $263,000. There was fencing added to the town hall park. The phone system here at the town hall was replaced, and the highway department bought anti-ice salt brine equipment for the roads. There was one other number I wanted to point out here, and I skipped by it. Right before that, there's an item called net pension asset, and at the end of the year, there's $119,000. That is talking about how much money is really for the town in Madison, for the WRS, as they invest town retirement monies. And at the end of the year, they were at 103%, which is phenomenal. And this was GASB 68. And the reason that occurred is because you had places like Illinois and California that were broke, and they couldn't pay their pension. And so you had huge liabilities on the books because they weren't investing the money, they weren't putting money aside. State of Wisconsin is much different. It's handled very well. So there is a net pension asset. If WRS was to disband, the town would actually get money back because they're paid ahead. A year ago, it was at 99%, and there was a net pension liability because they didn't have quite enough, and the amount was $35,000. So that flipped a little bit during the year. Under liabilities, there's $452,000 called unearned revenue. Those are primarily garbage assessments that went on people's taxes for 2018, but they're for 2019. And then you have your long-term debt show up on two lines. One is the current portion, the amount of debt payments that are principal payments due in the next year. That's $135,000, and the remaining long-term debt is $967,000. That other post-employment benefit, $44,000, is in the $967,000 long-term debt. During the year, the town paid off $134,000 in principal on its long-term debt. They did not incur any new debt. They paid off one very small loan that was 0% interest with the county, and there's 4 loans remaining. There's another county loan out there, and that's a small one too. There are 3 larger numbers, and those are disclosed in the footnotes, so you can see the balances on each one and when the maturities are. So that is all I really wanted to talk about. These are called the full accrual statements. I'm going to flip over to page 5 for a second, and now we are going to talk about the fund statements. We go through calculations, and they tell us guidelines, actual numbers. If your fund makes up X amount of revenues or X amount of assets, then it becomes a major fund. There was only one major fund in the town last year. It was the general fund. All the other funds are mixed together as non-major. There are three non-major funds. There's the park impact fee, the stormwater fund, and the debt service fund. And those are in the middle column on page 5. They're assets and liabilities. The only numbers that I'm going to talk about here specifically are down towards the bottom under fund balance, which are really the surpluses. At the end of the year, the park fund had $561 left in it. It had, beginning of the year, it had $7,000, and the money was spent from the impact fees to put up the fencing. And there's also some fairly elaborate picnic tables that are built in that it paid for. And the key to that is that you take in developers' impact fees, you have to use that money for park improvements, or in 7 years, you have to give it back. And so they chose to spend almost all of it. The next one, $8,339, is for stormwater. That's what's remaining in that fund at the end of the year. Pretty normal things that went through, obviously, for stormwater. There was one large culvert installation that the county actually came in and paid for half of it. They paid that money back to the town. So now I'm just going to look at the general fund. And there's some good and there's some bad news in here. It gets broken into 5 different categories. Non-spendable is the money that's out the door, but it doesn't relate to the current year. There's $117,000, and it's one of the reasons you need a surplus, because the money has been spent. Primarily, it was on supplies for the fire department and for the highway, whether it's salt or ambulance equipment or ambulance supplies that are consumable, they're used, they're gone. And so at the end of the year, you had invested almost $117,000 in those kind of things. There also was a small amount that was prepaid, and that was the January health insurance. For January 2019, it was paid in December. So a 2019 bill was paid early, as is typical. Going down, there's $402,000 of general fund surplus that is called assigned. And that money is the amount of the budget that was passed last November. It's the deficit amount and the amount that had been planned to subsidize this year's budget. Okay, it was not a balanced budget. And so there was fund balance in there. That amount is, if revenues come in as planned and expenditures go out as planned, $402,000 will be gone of the surplus, because that'll be used up to subsidize. The revenues were not enough to cover it. And these were almost maybe a short amount less, but they were for capital items. So it wasn't just like they're paying operating expenses for those. The unassigned amount, $256,585, is really, in my eyes, the critical number there. You do need, in a rainy day, if things don't happen the way that you plan, you need money in your surplus. How much? You can debate that. I have my own feelings, and I see it elsewhere. But if you're not careful, that will be gone, and you'll end up having to go to the bank and borrow to pay your employees' wages. And I'm not trying to scare anybody, but that's the way it can happen. Last year, the number in the unassigned was 312,000, so it's actually down a little bit. Now, my focus is going to be on page 32, and that's, so how did the fund balance get to be the way it was? And page 32 actually has the budget and the actual amounts. And this is the way the budget is. In many communities, the budget is something that's more detailed, it has department totals, but the town's budget is actually by very broad categories that gets published in the paper, and that is the budget that's adopted for the year. So when I talk about this, specifically about a budget, I'm talking about actually the budget worksheets that came up with these numbers. But the budget itself are these totals. The first column is the original budget for 2018, and if you look at the first number, it's 561,000. If you look way down at the bottom of that column, it's 561,000. At the end of the year, simply that means that in 2018 you had a balanced budget. You weren't expecting the fund balance to change at all when you budgeted in 2018. The third column says, okay, what actually happened? So yes, you started with 561,000, but you ended the year with 777,375, which is the number that shows up on this other page. So the fund balance for the general fund actually increased $216,000 during 2018. So for all practical purposes, 2018 was a banner year. Now, I don't want to pour cold water on anybody, but if 2018 had turned out to be a balanced year, and you didn't have this 216,000, you'd have an unassigned fund balance of 40,000 right now. Okay? All right. I'll leave that. I'll let you think about that for a while. What were the major players that caused the fund balance to grow so much? If you look in the far right column, that's actually a variance with the amended budget. There was one small minor amendment, so I'm going to just bypass that for a moment. Just say that if you look at regulation compliance, there was a pickup of $133,000 of revenues that exceeded the budget. Primarily, building permits were $40,000 over budget. Burning permits were $16,000 over budget. And cable fees, TV fees of $65,000 hadn't been budgeted for at all. And so that money was found money. And that's how come that produced the surplus. Those three things combined. Now, I'll add this little caveat that looking at the 2019 budget, those items that had not been budgeted for in 2018, they were budgeted for in 2019. And even at that, you have this big deficit budget for this year. So those revenues are helping fund the 2019 budget, okay? Charges for services were actually under budget by $67,000. Ambulance fee revenue was $35,000 under budget. Recreation fees were $24,000 less than had been expected. So there was some money that came back out of surplus because of those two. Interest earnings is a very interesting one, and we see this all over the place. It was a pickup of $29,000 as interest rates doubled from the end of 2017 to the end of 2018. And so obviously the earnings on primarily in the 2 months or December and January, where you got the tax, millions and millions and millions of dollars of tax money from not just the town's tax collections, but also the school districts and the county. So there was a big pickup in interest earnings. There's a line in here for sale of assets of $74,000, which was really a one-time deal. And it was I was talking to the chairman about this. He happened to pop in when I was looking at this. It was an agreement to split a cost-sharing agreement of a pumper with the Village of Waterford. And they agreed to pay $75,000 up front. And over time, they're going to own that vehicle. And I've been doing this since 1985, and I had not come across anything quite like that before. And so we said, well, we're going to call it sale of assets, because it seemed like that was the intent of that. And it brought in $74,000 into the coffers. So between the interest going up, that sale of assets, and the building permits and the cable TV fees, you can see that the revenues were $152,000 to the good, despite AMBO fees being down and so forth. Going down to the second half of this, charges to appropriations, those are really expenditures. General government was $75,000 to the good. They were under budget. And this is numerous departments. It's not just one. Deputy clerks was under budget, elections were under budget, professional services, believe it or not, were under budget. And other, nobody laughed. Oh, thank you, Karen. Other general government were under budget. Public safety was $34,000 over budget. The fire department was $14,000 over budget. Building inspection was $21,000 over budget, which is expected because the building permit revenue came in, was way over budget. So you got more money coming in as far as permit fees, and there's a percentage then that goes out to the inspectors. So if one's over, the other one's gonna be over. Public Works, $18,577 to the good. And then you go down the line and there's smaller amounts. But in total, the expenditures were $71,000 under budget. So you couple the revenues being $152,000 over budget, expenditures being $71,000 under budget, and that's how you ended up the year the way that you did. So the year turned out really well. There were some one-time pickups in there, there's some cautions in there, and there's some, and I've said this every year, that since the state imposed levy limits on the governments, once you lose fund balance, it's really difficult to replace it. And so I'm just throwing that caution out there. So, but otherwise, 2018 was, it really was a banner year with all the things that happened. They were virtually all to the good. So I have a letter to the board about our findings. Most of this is cookbook. It's, I say that, but there were some things that I've tossed out there that, and again, we're not management, we make recommendations. And it's just that you got a small community with a small group of employees. It's imperative for the board to manage oversight for the employees and to have checks and double checks to make sure that everything is on the up and up and that nothing happens that shouldn't happen. I can't say that there was anything major. I did come across several instances where there were duplicate payments. Those have been reimbursed, from what I understand. And so those have been taken care of. A year ago, there was a fairly large check from the government, which didn't make it to the bank, didn't make it up to the town hall for months. And so we had included that with the 2017 letter, and that was not the case in 2018. Everything that I saw was deposited on a timely basis. So that got labeled as resolved. That's a lot of information, but so if anybody has any specific questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Do the extra charges that have been imposed for burn permits and brush pickup and franchise fees, does that play into your levy limits at all?
In what respect?
Well, you only can charge the residents up to a certain percentage, right? Do those added charges on the residents play into that?
Not to my knowledge. You cannot, if you have added fees for specific purposes, and off the top of my head, I think they're fire-related and maybe ambulance. I don't have that right here. I don't see how the cable TV fees would influence that at all. Stormwater fees might, they're saying that if you didn't have this charge last year and you added this charge this year, you'd have to subtract it off your levy. And I don't see how those would have, I guess.
Okay.
And again, I'm stepping back and saying I don't have the exact items that they specify on those. But I can tell that cable TV fees don't.
But if that substantial cable fee is not in your revenue portion of your budget,
Well, you got to find a way to balance the budget.
Right.
Then it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if that's what you were asking or not, Lorene, but obviously, if you didn't have that in the 2019 budget, you'd either have to start cutting expenditures to get the budget where you wanted to, or you'd have to find out other additional revenue sources. And I can tell you that everybody's in the same boat. Every other community we deal with is like this, because if you need things, and you're gonna find that for the 2019 budget, you're scheduled to use $400-some thousand for capital items. 2020, if you have another $300,000 of capital items, you don't have surplus to pay for those, it means borrowing. most likely.
All right, I have a question. If we've got a general fund balance of 256,000 and we're getting 74,000 this year for the fire truck or the tanker that we're working with Waterford on, one-time payment, right?
You got that in 2018.
I'm sorry?
In 2018, you got that.
Okay, that's a windfall though, isn't it? It's a
It is.
one-time, so it didn't affect the 256, in other words.
Your 256 would have been 100 and whatever $74,000 less is, it would have been 180,000 instead of 256.
That's what I was asking. I just
Yes.
wanted to clarify that. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks,
It bumped it up.
thanks.
Again, it's as far as I know, it's a one-time deal. We never recommend that people budget for sales of assets. If you have to sell off your property to balance your budget in operations, then you got troubles. That's my presentation, unless somebody else has something.
Howard, we used to have an elected clerk and elected treasurer, and now we have an appointed combined clerk treasurer. At our annual meeting, many residents commented upon, the separation of duties and so on, and in our book here, the last item, I don't know if you read this or not, but the current clerk treasurer, appointed clerk treasurer, has proposed changes to those policies. Did you read them, and do you have any
I haven't
comments?
seen them, no.
Oh, you haven't seen them yet, okay.
I wasn't authorized to give it to him.
Well, you were not authorized to give it to him.
No,
Right,
I-
right.
I don't understand.
Okay. Yeah, well,
I'd be happy to. He'll be happy.
There again, it needs, the more people involved, the better, right? I mean, there has to be
well, that's the
oversight.
concern.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a justifiable concern. Sure. And and this isn't saying anything about anybody, and we hardly have anybody where those positions are not combined as clients. It's unusual that I can think of one other place where they had a separate position, but other mitigating controls have played out whether there's oversight, and you have the benefit of having a finance committee here that many of others do not have it. So there are people who actually know numbers and look at numbers and can see things that can provide some of the extra controls. And I think we've had this discussion where really the board should be looking at any places where they think that there could be instances where things could be missing, and that they should look at specific controls. And I think that's probably what Karen has done, is have added some of the controls for those places. But without seeing it, I can't really comment.
What do the other municipalities that you audit with combined positions, which you said are most of them, or over half, 90, I don't sure.
I'm
Almost
thinking.
all?
Yes,
Almost all?
yes.
What kind of procedures do they put in place, and what kind should we be looking at, if for starters? And maybe this is a topic for, Finance Committee.
It would start with, where are you most vulnerable? It would take a broad overview and say, where do we have places where there's cash coming in the door? That's always one of the hot topics, is if there's cash, there's room for cash not to be missing. And again, it's a fact of life, and it's not pointing a finger at anybody, because I certainly haven't found anything that would lead me to that. But so controls would discourage anybody from even attempting to do that. And so you look at where, is it burning permits? Is it building permits? Is it recreation fees where there's cash being collected? And if there is, can more than one person be involved with some of those procedures? And depositing and looking at things. From money going out the door, it's we have board members who have volunteered or been maybe liaison to the clerk treasurer, where they are actually looking at bank statements and getting bank statements mailed directly to their home, so they can see them even before they come and the town of Village Hall, so they can see exactly what cleared the bank during the month. And they're signing off. They're going in, they have access online to the bank accounts and are looking at things as they actually clear the bank and on a very random basis at their own choosing, so that nobody knows exactly what they're looking for or what they're looking at. But those are the kind of controls that we're seeing other board members step up and do. With those that have finance committees, you have, like I say, you have people there who already are looking at the finances, and they are familiar. I'd be happy to sit down and meet with them. I'd be happy to read what Karen put out.
Okay, well, we
Carl.
can put that on a
Yeah.
future agenda to discuss that. Yes, Supervisor Moline.
May I follow up to your question? Karen did create this proposed changes to Town of Vernon. I'd personally like to see you take a look at that, because all of the ones I've seen in the past where we look at the audited statements would have comments from the auditor telling you where you needed to strengthen or where you had weaknesses. Karen did a pretty good job, I think, of putting this together and looking for balance to make sure we had backup for all the financial issues where disruption could take place, non-receipted monies, et cetera. But I'd really like you to look at this from a professional standpoint and give us your comments on it. Are we there where we need to be? Are there areas where we're weak and need to look at something else? We should be protecting the finances of town to the best of our ability, so I'd look for your expertise on that.
You know, when these discussions take place with other communities, they call it brainstorming.
Yeah.
It's thinking outside the box, because even over the past 10 or 15 years, it's been one of the hottest topics in our profession. In the classes we go to, you would be in shock if you knew how these things were perpetrated. So you have to think like a thief, which is so outside of my nature. And so you sit around with the people who are actually doing, and it's usually at an informal setting, and you follow the trail of what actually happens, and people are just throwing out ideas as to what they could do. Like I said, I would be very happy to read that, but it's almost in one of those settings where you come up with the best ideas of how to do that.
I guess I'm just looking for your input, and Karen did, I think, an outstanding job, but did we miss anything that would jump out as obvious to you?
Okay?
I've read a bunch of these over the years, and there's always a comment to be made, valid
Sure.
or not.
Sure.
But it's always good to look at them and see if you've got your
No,
bases
I'd be
covered.
happy to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can put that on the next agenda.
Would you please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, this shows changes.
And whether we do that, authorize you to review it, and we'll put that on the next agenda, and, perhaps schedule a date where we can have a brainstorming session.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that?
Well, we'll need to schedule it on the next meeting's agenda.
To
Authorize it.
Oh, okay,
Right.
so as of right now,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wait.
Right.
Until, okay.
Right.
Got it. In my spare time. This looks like a book.
It is a
Right.
book. Well, I think that would be helpful, and then we'll also discuss on that agenda item whether we want to, buy an hour or two of his time and have a brainstorming session, in person and go through all of our procedures. And again, we're not pointing fingers at anybody.
Right.
Or this is just about control and best for the town. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions about the audit?
Supervisor Dashick.
Going back to the clerk and treasurer duties, there should be a separate person doing the treasurer part of the clerk treasurer positions, right? There should be different individuals rather than the clerk doing the treasurer duties also. Shouldn't it be a different employee?
Did you read the book? There's four to five people looking at each deposit, did you read it?
Yes, yes.
So it's not.
They're looking at it, but they're not doing the
No,
work.
they are signing each deposit, each check, yeah, it's not one person anymore, it's
Okay.
4 to 5 people.
Okay, I'll look at that. I did ask for the treasurer's balance sheets and the bank account journal from the ACS program. Still waiting to get that.
Did you, on the agenda, there's something that you need to do before I can give that to you?
Okay.
So if you look at the agenda, before I can make those changes, I have to have permission to change an invoice and a check that was deposited. I can't make those changes without bringing that error to the board.
Okay. What does that have to do with the treasurer's balance sheet for?
You can't reconcile a balance sheet if you have items that have to be corrected.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. Further questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, can you tell the public that this will be up on the website tonight, the audited financial?
Audited financial statements, sure. The clerk just mentioned that she will post up the Town of Vernon financial statements, audited financial statements on the website tomorrow.
Yes, I want the board to see them first.
So they will be available to the public. I know it was hard to follow. I've been in the audience trying to figure this out not too long ago and page this and page that, but they will be up on the website.
I apologize for that. I just figured 37 pages, if I
Yeah,
started.
I know.
You'd all have your heads down and there have walked out.
Now, do we need a motion to acknowledge receipt and,
Or accept.
or accept the audited financials?
I'll make a motion to. Hello. I'll make a motion to accept the audited financial statement for 2019. 18, get it right, Moline. 18, sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? We've had discussion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried by voice vote.
All right. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Okay, letter B. A resolution authorizes submission of the cooperative boundary agreement with the Village of McGuanago to the Department of Administration. In your packet, you have a resolution number 2019-03. It has not been submitted to the town attorney for legal review. It certainly can be. You've seen the attorney's comments. I think he commented on that as well. Obviously, it's a policy matter whether to adopt the resolution or not.
I'd make a motion to accept the resolution for signature.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. Do you want to, okay, you can start.
I heard a comment that the chair might not be willing to sign this document. As part of the chair's duty, he should be signing this document as part of the job description. I just wanted to mention that up front because of the rumor I heard.
Well, how these resolutions are signed or not, it's by ordinance or statute, and if I'm required to sign it, I'm required to sign it. So I'm not sure, you know.
I don't know.
Certainly, I'm not in favor of it.
I understand that.
As everyone should know by now. So, no legal review. Do you want to have it subject to legal review? I'm asking the person who made the motion here, because your motion did not have that.
I will also amend my motion to include a legal review by Attorney Macy for this document.
The second was, who made this?
Supervisor Wells.
Yeah.
Supervisor Wildy, you need to re-second,
Well,
or we're going out of,
Yeah.
it's a friendly, we'll treat it as a
Friendly
friendly
amendment.
amendment at this point. If
Otherwise, I have
not,
to
then
make a
we'll do it the rules of, Robert Rules of Order, and we'll have to have,
Right.
vote this one down and vote the next one up, or vice versa.
Well, I'm not 100% in favor of submitting it to the attorney for the simple fact that I think the resolution speaks for itself, and I don't know what the attorney is going to do to update it or anything like that, but in spirit of Mr. Moline's motion, I'll go along with the second.
Thank
to
you.
Submit it to the attorney.
So what happens if the attorney sends it back saying I would change this? Do we have to revote on it
Well,
next time? Yeah.
that's what I'm afraid of.
It's an effort to close a loophole in the statute.
What's that, Ed?
I'm doing this in an effort to close a loophole in the statute.
Okay.
Or you could send it over and vote on it 2 weeks from now, if you're afraid about revoting.
That's not a really bad idea.
Mr. Chairman, if you would want, after legal review, it could be sent to the board, and if any board member requested it to be on the agenda because of substantial changes. All I tried to do is capture what actually
Yeah.
happened, but I'm not an attorney.
I think your suggestion is pretty appropriate. Send it on to John. If John has significant changes in it, then bring it back. But if it passes his muster, then submit it.
Okay?
I'd like to submit it and make an amended change if we need to at the end. I don't know if that's feasible, but I don't want to delay this signature. I'm not expecting any changes, to be honest with you. I'm just looking to plug a loophole.
Yeah.
Well, John's got to put his 2 cents in and have some change, otherwise he thinks he's not doing his job.
That's exactly right.
Maybe we could talk him out of it.
As long as it's nothing major.
That's what I'm saying.
They'll see it, Mr. Chairman, before.
Oh, sure. Of course. You get all the legal reviews.
Sign it tonight.
Always.
Once John gives the approval, it goes off. If he doesn't give the approval, we have to bring another vote, I guess, for the corrected document at that point in time.
Can we restate the motion so that we understand?
Right.
The motion was made by Supervisor Ed Moline to adopt the resolution 2019-3, a resolution authorizing the submission of a cooperative board agreement with the Village of Mugwanago to the Department of Administration, subject to legal review.
And we have a second.
Second by Supervisor Gary Wildy.
Does anyone object to signing the document tonight, leaving it sit with Karen until the legal review comes in, and she can send it if there's no major changes?
I can, Mr. Chairman, I can submit a blank or signed resolution.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate to sign it until legal review is
It was subject to.
it was subject to. We all live in town.
Yeah, we can come and
I mean-
sign.
And I'm sure Attorney Macy can get to it. I don't know his schedule, but you can set it over tonight and next week.
I can send it tonight.
And we
Okay.
have a meeting in 2 weeks, a regular board meeting in 2 weeks,
Right.
in the event there's issues,
plenty of
right?
McGuanago sent theirs in the night before last, I believe, or last night, one of the two. I'd like to, if we need to, Karen can let everybody know if it came through without major changes, and we could come in on an individual basis and sign it to get it up there as soon as possible. It's gonna take them time to review it too.
I don't know if the village has submitted, I know they adopted their resolution, but I don't know if they have submitted. I can find out, and I can also ask them for a copy of their
I
resolution.
thought I read an email that did state that they submitted theirs and were wondering when we were gonna submit ours.
I believe their administrator said their board passed their resolution. I don't believe he said they submitted it at this point, but I can email John tonight and get him answer tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, I think they just passed it last night. Is the way I read it,
Yeah.
but ask. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I'll copy the board on the response.
sure.
Okay. Whatever.
We had a big public discussion May 16th. We had many, many comments against this border agreement. We've had referendum against it. We had public comments here tonight against it. A couple people for it, raised good questions about it. My concerns, of course, are we have a referendum. Over 90% of it was against. The people who spoke at the meeting, all but one, the 45 who spoke against it.
Point of order, we've been through all that, Carl.
I
I
get
don't
it.
think we
I'm
need
just
to
summarizing it.
repeat that.
Just summarizing it. And a couple of other points. The agreement itself, I've reviewed the file. I can't see an attorney review. It's good that we have an attorney review of the resolution. That's why I raised it. There's no attorney review of whether the agreement even meets the Department of Administration criteria or how they're likely to receive it. So that's an unknown. We can walk in blind on that, I suppose. But otherwise, you know, my position hasn't changed. I'm going to vote against it. It seems to me that we can renegotiate this border agreement for better terms if you turn this down. It might protect the border with McGuanago, but it doesn't protect all the borders. And most importantly, the property owners involved that are being thrown out of town are against it. And if they're not going to annex, the border is fixed. They don't want to annex. They don't want to go to McGuanago. We heard from these people. And we've heard from others across town that they like the rural atmosphere. You're not going to get it in McGuanago. So those are my comments. Other comments? And then we'll call the question.
I'll call a question now. I think we discussed it enough.
Okay? We'll call the question. We'll have a roll call vote.
Chairman Carl Fortner?
Against? No.
Supervisor Jeff Miller?
Yes.
Supervisor Gary Weldy?
Yes.
Supervisor Ed Molina?
Yes.
Supervisor Lorraine Dashick?
No.
Mr. Chairman, note for the record that Chairman Carl Fortner and Supervisor Lorraine Dashick voted against, but the motion does pass with Supervisor Ed Moline, Supervisor Gary Wildy, and Supervisor Jeff Millies voting in favor of the resolution.
Letter C. This is ordinance 2019-04, an ordinance to repeal and recreate our Chapter 270 of the Town of Vernon Municipal Ordinance entitled Sexual Offender Residency and Restriction. Chairman, this issue came to my attention this last week, and I understand that the town board has in the past taken up this issue, and we just got some further information about it today, new to me anyway, and new to Supervisor Dashick, from November of 2017, where our town lawyer was recommending that we revise our ordinance in order, if we're ever challenged on it, in order to best protect the town and its residents from a challenge to our ordinance. And if the ordinance is challenged successfully, depending on what the court says about it, we could have no ordinance, no restrictions whatsoever, or some kind of compromise situation. And so therefore, the recommendation came to my attention that this was discussed in early 2018. February of 2018, but no final action was taken at that point, so I wanted to put it on the agenda to take care of it. If we can tonight, I know we've gotten some, information that I haven't really had a chance to study myself from November of 2017, and one of my questions about that is, it's a long letter from our attorney, and he made several suggestions about considering the distance, the 1,000 feet. What does it look like? What does it look like at 750? What does it look like at 500? Creating this review board, one of the problems with the ordinance is that the courts, and it's not, we haven't had a problem here in the town, but across the state of Wisconsin, other communities have. And one of the defects is you're not giving due process rights, so you have to set up this board of review, and it's not board of review, residency board, I guess, to allow an aggrieved party to, request for a hearing. And so the ordinance has been revised to, establish that board. And I don't know I wasn't on the board back in late 2017 or early 2018. I don't know why this, matter wasn't resolved one way or the other. And maybe it was that, nope, we don't want to do it.
was up in the air.
So I don't know. And that's why I wanted to bring it and put it on the agenda, because I do think it's important. And, we will get requests.
Yep.
And
We
Mr.
will.
Chairman, you did ask for a review of what, when the board got that letter, what happened, from the board. And it was on several, at least 4 staff agendas, but for some reason, it never actually came to fruition to the actual board meeting. It was discussed at staff with the attorney, but never came to a.
It's like we're always waiting for some more information.
Yeah, they were, it was in flux up at state at the time. They were arguing about certain conditions and things on it. So Macy would continually bring us new information, and we were waiting to do the final review of it. It kind of got dropped in the middle of it because there was no more information. It got forgotten, I guess.
Assemblyman Clayfish, Rebecca's husband, I can't think of his name.
Joel.
He was introducing, that was the sticking point. He was going to be introducing legislation for the Romeo Juliet, the type of deliberation that those subcommittees look at.
Well, yeah, he wanted to delineate, instead of lumping all sexual offenders into one group, he would at least bifurcate or more,
Right.
based on the type of offense. And
Yeah,
I
one-
think that makes sense. I think the people in Wisconsin would say, oh, yeah, that makes sense, that an aggravated assault is different than 2 17-year-olds, okay?
Or 18 and 17.
Or an 18 and 17, right.
We got involved with one of the people that, sex offenders wanted to move in with his mother in town here, as you recall. And we had to review that and see, do we have a legal leg to stand on if we say no? And at the time we did, but it was up in the court at that time, looking for changes that might have eliminated our ability to refuse him coming back to live with his mother. So that was one of the discussions we had with Mr. Macy, and it kind of grew from there. And as you may recall, there was a lot of discussion. I had a conversation with one of the people that control those, what do they call them? Parole officer. She said she wanted to see the law changed because people are living in cars all over the city when they can't find a residence. And it seemed unfair to her, and so a lot of that was being pushed up at state for that type of reason. They just ran out of room to put these people. So they were living in cars, they were sleeping on streets, and it just wasn't to the benefit of anybody. So we dropped it. We didn't follow through on it. It's a good thing to bring up. We should do something with this.
I think it's a good point to, Ed made this, that we need to act on this. It's appropriate that you brought it forward because it's a significant, like you said, if there's somebody that
Liability.
wants to move into this area, that this will basically cover cover ourselves.
Right now, it's not following the law. it needs to be
Right.
put in
Right.
place to
That's what
follow
my
the law.
concern is.
Yeah,
Because we
right.
don't have due process rights, the residency,
Right.
that our
That's why
ordinance is at risk.
we should act
And the
on
town
this.
is at risk, not
Yes,
just the
it is.
ordinance, I mean, that's
But
a
we
do say you
amorphous
should-
context.
You should state that the town of Vernon has a very, very strong domicile residency.
Right.
Right.
Very strong ordinance in regards to if the crime was committed here, and other cities didn't have that.
But-
But what the chairman's bringing forth is the arbitration or the board that needs to be in
Right.
place.
Right, which is the primary, I mean, you saw the proposed ordinance, and I just added, the sheriff's department when it said police department. I
That's
thought
fine.
that was just a simple,
Yeah.
oversight, so that's not,
yeah.
I mean,
We need-
controversial,
we
I
need to
wouldn't
act on it,
think.
though.
But, so we could adopt this ordinance, Mike, the new information from November of 2017 that I just read today, the question in my mind is, did we do any of what he said in here to do?
No.
During those during those,
Not after, when it was, that has been looked at. You mean the residency map and the
Yeah,
distance?
right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. the
yeah,
res-
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the letter, I mean,
And Mr.
I
Chairman,
don't
we-
want to read a.
Checking the 1,000 feet and all that good
Right,
stuff
right.
was.
And
Yeah,
we-
I don't want to read a 5-page
No.
letter out loud and say, well, did we do this? Did
Yeah,
we do
yeah.
that?
Right, and Vernon does go above and beyond in regards to documentation of sexual offenders that we're aware of living in our community also.
Well, the registry's communicated to us on a regular basis when
Right.
something takes place. We get notified, and we can react if it's going to affect Vernon. But other than that one, I haven't seen anything come in and put some back in our town.
There's a few.
We do get calls. I let the chairman know of a call that we had, well, and the chairman knows of one that he and the attorney received 3 weeks ago. And I constantly get calls from parole officers and I can defer to our ordinance online. But we do have calls from people wondering when and if the town's going to do something in regards to people pleading a specific case that happened 45 years ago between a 17-year-old and 18-year-old male or female.
We don't have a board, so that'll be up to,
Yeah,
Right, well, this ordinance would establish a board.
Right.
We'd have to eventually appoint a board.
Yeah.
right.
But we don't have to do that tonight. That could be a future agenda
As long
item.
as we approve this ordinance.
Right. The big thing to me was get it on the agenda to look at the ordinance, see what, if there were issues with why it was, not pursued a year and a half ago. If there were, let's get those issues resolved as quickly as we can, so we can move forward in protecting our residents.
question if I may. This Exhibit A, is that the same date, November 14th, or did this come in on a different date?
It's the same exhibit, except for there was an update done in regards to the chairman.
Oh, that's
Right.
all? The
Yeah,
sheriff,
that-
where you
that-
put in the
that's-
county sheriff?
Yep, that's the only thing that
That's
was
it.
changed, yes.
So this is all routed to November 14th? Maybe we should ask Macy if there's been any changes since
No, he
then.
has, he has reviewed it.
He has?
Yeah, well, we asked him about that on the attorney's call.
You did, you talked to him?
The chairman did, yes.
Right.
So all the information we need for the review and the implementing a new ordinance is contained herein.
You're ready to go.
Okay,
Okay.
Gotcha.
then make a motion.
So I'll make a motion to
wanna-
approve ordinance 2019-04, the sexual offender residency and restrictions ordinance.
Is there a second? Second
Yeah, I'll
by,
second it.
okay, further discussion? Okay, no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous, voice vote. Letter D.
Yeah, there you go.
Now some more mundane business coming up here. Adopt the Citizens Bank of McWanago resolution for the town of Vernon banking. This is a standard banking resolution by Citizens Bank. I think a prior meeting, you authorized, I think myself and Supervisor Millies to sign, but we never adopted the resolution, so that's why it's on the
I was wondering, like,
agenda.
how did I get that signed? Yeah.
Yeah, we signed already.
Rescind all the checks that you signed.
Well, we have authority to sign. Now we
Okay.
need, now
Yeah.
we need to pass the resolution. And I think you've got in your
This is it right here, yeah.
packet, right, there's my green page. That's their standard form resolution. I don't think that Attorney Macy had comment on that, other than policy decision, and, you know, they're not going to do business with you if you don't pass it.
We don't have much of a choice.
Mr. Chairman, there is one page missing, but it is missing because it has personal information in regards to the three of our social security numbers,
Signatures.
so, and our
Right.
birth dates.
Right,
So-
Patriot Act
Right.
information.
Right.
So that was redacted from the resolution, so I'm looking for a motion to, what do we call this? Adopt,
Adopt the Citizens Bank
Bank.
of Quantico resolution.
right.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous, voice vote. Okay, letter F, Resolution 2019-04. These are to approve ACH automated clearinghouse withdrawals. Again, we'll need a motion to approve those, and we have, oops, I'm a little bit out of order here. We have a Resolution 2019-04 with Exhibit A attached. Payroll, as you can see, payroll is, this is going to amend and replace the one we have in place right now, so we're adding to, payroll's already including all the other garnishments, ACSAs, WRS, all of it.
These have already been approved, Mr. Chairman, and what you were doing is before they're actually enacted, because of the new members, it just would make me feel better that you're looking at all those, and approving those ACH transactions. You would approve them just like you do a check, but instead of signing a check, they'd be paid online.
Right. So in addition to payroll, there's our credit card, utilities, phone, Spectrum, and our loan payments.
Void of any more discussion, I would make a motion to select Resolution 2019-04, approve the ACH automated clearinghouse withdrawals as provided
On Exhibit A.
on Exhibit A.
Is there a second?
Just-
There
Yeah,
we go.
just one, okay, I'll second it, and for discussion.
Okay.
quick.
Sorry.
The sexual offender ordinance is dated, is listed as 219-4, and this one's 219-4. Shouldn't this be 219-5?
Ordinance and one's a resolution, Mr.
Okay,
Right.
very good. Thank you, that answers that. Oh, that's
That's
okay.
okay. Yeah,
I just
they've
seen
got
the
the
two-
same number.
I seen, yeah, I got the same number. Okay,
Not you, Gary, I meant me.
that's fine.
Yeah, one's an ordinance, one's a resolution.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Any further discussion?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
When did the credit card bills get paid through ACH? Was that something since,
They have not, none of those have been, the only ones that are paid through ACH that you see, like on the agenda, in your packet this time are, payroll. Those are all done by ACH. None of the vendors that you see have been implemented at this point,
Right.
but
All
they
right.
will be. But we have two new members on the board and a new chairman. So before we started doing that, I just wanted another blessing. Blessing from the board.
Okay.
so that is going to happen?
The new ones that I listed off, the credit card, utilities, AT&T, Spectrum, and our loan at
Right.
Citizen Bank.
Yeah, we do.
We're paid by manual check? Or no?
Right, except for the Citizens Bank, that's just done by a click and a transfer.
An EFT,
But
right.
it's in the APs, just like,
Right. Right, so just because it's an ACH, it doesn't mean that it's not in the APs. It's just the method of paying.
Right, that's all.
Yeah.
that's
It's
the-
just a method of, instead
always
of
get
cutting
it
a,
with the APs.
instead of cutting a check, it's an electronic transfer. But it still will be on the list, subject to approval, just like before. It's just the
And-
method of payment.
and
That's
not
the way I look
paid-
at it.
It's not paid until the board approves it. The only ones that are not done that way is payroll because of how payroll and garnishments and child support and,
But you do give us the payroll
Oh, ab-
listing from the bank, so we get to look at, there's
Right,
nothing
you-
I
right,
haven't
there's
seen
nothing, right.
that relates
Yeah.
to money.
Right,
Okay.
right, right.
and that's why I put the bank statement in your packet with the ACH transactions, so you can actually see that
Right.
I'm not lying to you.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Voice vote. I didn't miss anything here, did I? No. Letter G, 4th of July. Okay, our regular town board meetings, of course, are the first and third Thursdays of the month. 4th of July is the first Thursday in July. I assume it's a holiday under our ordinance. We need to set a new date, unless everybody wants to meet on the 4th, which I particularly do not,
No.
so.
What's an alternative?
Yeah, so we're looking for an alternative. I know we have, Plan Commission would be the next week, Wednesday, July 10th. If you want to stay on a Thursday, we could, and if people are available, the 11th. I suppose in theory, we could skip it or pick a different day, but any preferences? Hope you brought your calendars with you.
I can go for the 11th.
Go for the
Well,
11th?
I'd go earlier Tuesday if it's keeping the same week and do it sooner.
Yeah.
Is there a
see what
reason why
that-
we needed to do it
The
sooner?
second?
Yeah.
We could do it July 2nd.
I could do that too.
Because if you have
It's,
it the
it's
11th,
4th of July week, though.
are you gonna
Good
be-
week.
are you gonna be what?
Well, 4th of July week.
Yeah.
You want to move it to the 8th? Monday?
No.
No, Tuesday? Well, that's an
Oh,
evening.
Jill, I'm
though. It won't
squinting
mess
my
up our
eyes over
target.
there, and July isn't up on your month at a glance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
9th, 11th,
Oop, blank.
Is possibly the board of review date, so you can't pick July 10th.
Oh, it's open yet.
That's probably gonna be the date,
Probably
10th?
gonna be the big
July
date.
10th.
That's the day it's,
You can't do July 10th?
I told you I couldn't. You gave me 2 dates.
No, 3.
No, I saw 2.
Well,
2, and then she gave you 3 more, didn't you?
Right, and they took
I
away
didn't
the
see that
15th.
one. I saw 2.
Yeah, you probably haven't gotten this yet. You can't do July 10th either?
No, I can't do Wednesdays, period.
That's probably gonna be the next board of review.
Well, July 10th is a Plan Commission meeting, too.
But this is
Yeah,
during the
it'd
day.
be
But
jamming
this
a
would
lot
be
into
during the
that
day or right ahead of that or
it's
something,
birthday.
right?
Yeah, it's got, no, 'cause it's a-
they give me a good reason to.
well, I gotta-
Oh, yeah, after 2:30, I
That's
think
the
you
only
said.
date, 18th.
Jim? Oh,
Okay.
And Cal can't make the 15th, he's the board of review.
Oh, is he in another community?
Yep. But you said 8th is bad, right?
well, you gave me something on the 31st. I'm trying to remember.
That was a.
The 31st, I couldn't.
Well, remember, Board of Review, we adjourned to the June 27th.
Right.
And that looks like it's not going to work
No,
now.
not right,
So
yeah.
we've got to schedule that, not here, not tonight, but on the agenda is scheduling our board meeting for the 4th. So we'll set aside that. Well, the only point being, we got to work that one in too.
First, second.
Right. We got to work that in too. 8th, 9th, 10th, 10th is
10th is out.
10th is
Well, it's
out.
Plan Commission, too.
Plan
Wednesdays
Commission,
are
right,
out.
10th is out. 8th, 9th,
Yep,
yep, good.
fine with either one.
Gary,
Doesn't matter
Jeff,
to me.
8th or 9th?
I'd rather the 9th.
You'd rather the 9th? Tuesday, the 9th,
Yep, that's fine with me.
6:30?
6:30?
Yes.
Okay.
Regular board meeting.
That doesn't affect checks at all for you, right?
Doesn't affect what?
Checks?
Checks.
Checks.
Checks
Pay the
are,
bill.
Not
Oh,
signing
okay.
too late or
If
something.
there's something urgent, I would get that to the chairman and do a manual check. If there's
Okay.
something that's, has to be paid, like,
You can get the paperwork out by then, no problem.
We got ACH now, we just approved
And
it.
what's
She can
that-
do it the same night,
What time did we say?
6:30.
right?
Well, just on those items.
6:30?
Yeah, just on those items, right.
Works for me.
Well, that's the ones we're always in trouble.
That's the regular board meeting, that's the 8th.
Okay, let's have a motion. How about that? A motion to
I'll make a motion to
schedule the
move.
July 4th regular meeting to July 9th at 6:30.
There's the motion. I second it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous voice vote. 7-9, 6:30. Okay, participation in the 2020 United States Census. Well, the letter came into our former town chairman, but, so it ended up in my mailbox from the U.S. Census. And I put it on the agenda because it's an ask, it's a request from the United States government, the census, to provide the Census Bureau information from the town of Vernon on new construction. And I didn't think I had the authority to unilaterally make that decision, so we put it on the agenda. You saw Attorney Macy's comments on it, which, when I looked at the details and talked to Attorney Macy with Karen on the phone too, our concerns were not that we don't have this information, but providing it in the format
That they want,
that they want.
yeah.
I mean, we have the information. Vince, building permits, we have the information, but providing it when it's a public record, and it's also kept by Waukesha County
And the state.
and the state. So it really caused us, well, we'd like to cooperate with,
Yeah.
with our
they
government,
making
of
it
course, but,
mandatory?
but
Are they
it's voluntary.
Voluntary, okay.
Right.
Can we pass it on to the county and let
He
them?
says
the
we can.
state.
Or just not participate.
Or just not
Just don't-
participate.
Don't participate, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the concern, and then who's going to do it? And
Yeah.
if you read, the government is required to, or the U.S. government is required to give an estimate of how long it's going to take. This is on page 3, or 4.
Yeah.
I read it.
We estimate that completing this program will take a total of 48 hours on average. 48 hours on average. I really,
No, thanks. No,
I really
thanks.
hesitate on that.
Well, that's a lot of extra work.
And it's already required.
That's already, the county's got it.
The state has it too, right?
The state has every permit we issue. Vince can't issue a permit unless he's got the seal. So
Yeah.
why they're asking local municipalities, I don't know.
Well, it could be, it's, one size fits all.
Maybe
This
they
is
don't
not
trust
just
the
asking
state.
the town of Vernon, they're asking everybody in Wisconsin, everybody in Illinois, Minnesota, everywhere.
But through the DPS, everybody has to have that seal. You can't build any new construction without that seal.
In Wisconsin.
Right. Oh, sorry.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion that we pass on that.
Not participate?
Not
Yeah,
participate.
Not participate.
In the May 10th,
In the
2019
census.
request from the U.S. Census. How's
Right.
that? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Voice vote. Mr. Henneberry. Spring and fall brush pickup, wood chip delivery, I think you're providing information and discussion on ditching and maintenance of waterways, security locks, so we will just go through the list, please.
Yeah, if you look at these sheets I kind of gave you here, I just updated the spreadsheet here for the spring pickup, and we're down. Last fall, we had 717 pickups. Now we're down to 206. I don't know if it was because of the fee that we've been incurred this spring. We ended up delivering only 42 loads of wood chips, again, for a fee of $30. I know there's a discussion, you guys wanted to discuss on what we want to do for the fall pickup. Continue charging, not charging, have a drop-off. I guess sooner to make the decision, the better, so we can kind of put it out there and start letting people know what our plans are. I guess it's,
Did you have enough wood chips to
I barely had enough just to fill what we had ordered. I mean, it was down to, we have maybe a half a load back there of cruddy stuff that was on the bottom, you know? I mean,
But the good news is you don't have a pile of it either,
correct, we got rid of it, which is always good.
because the pickups were so far down.
Yeah, well, I think the orders were down also because of the fee.
Right,
also.
and the fees.
So,
Right,
So
I guess
it kind
the
of went
pickups
hand
were
in
down,
hand,
right, pickups
technically.
were down because of the fee, and then
yeah.
orders were down because of the fee.
That's my theory, but I don't know that. It was a very wet spring. I know a lot of people couldn't get out and do yard work. That may have a lot to do with it also. But I guess it's something to think about. I just want to know what direction we're going to go for this fall. I mean, this is, you know, so we can start planning accordingly.
Yeah.
How soon do you need a decision? Sooner the better?
Well, I'm just throwing it out there for you guys to start mulling this over. We should, I would like to get it out and so we can advertise in the next flyer or get it on the website or whatnot, just so people know what's, you know, what to expect. You know, like I said, we could have a drop-off site where I'm not taking up my crew to, you know, physically do this for 3 weeks. I could be out crack filling roads. So if we have a drop-off site or something like that, so.
Yeah, I'm concerned about our roads and the road maintenance and especially in the fall with crack filling
Yeah.
and
I've
culvert
got
replacement and finishing up.
Ditches is,
Yeah,
getting
ditches
behind.
and finishing up everything we gotta get done before the winter. That's my biggest concern with our DPW department, that they
Yeah.
are being used in a fashion that produces the greatest savings and road maintenance, proper road maintenance saves on roads. Plus, I've been hearing a lot of complaints about our roads, but
Would, just out of curiosity, John, would we have an area where we could designate for people to drop off for a period of like 2 weeks in the fall? If
2
it's
weekends?
monitored, without getting rid of it until spring? Is there an area that could be utilized like that?
yeah, we probably would, I could make some room back there, but typically when we're doing our ditching and stuff in the summer, we take our fill, we pile the fill back there.
Okay,
So we usually end up with a pretty decent fill pile, and then we try and get rid
Schedule
of that
grading.
as soon as possible. And that's not, we still have some from last year yet, so I mean, it's depends on where we can get rid of it. Technically, if you have a drop-off, I don't anticipate a lot of drop-off, because a lot of people don't have the means to get the stuff here.
okay.
So I don't think you're gonna have a real big pile, so I mean, we could try it and see what happens. I mean, people need an outlet somewhere to get rid of this stuff, I get that, and I wouldn't hate to deny them from that, but,
Well, my big concern is if we could hang on to it till the spring pickup and then get rid of it at that time. I'm just like you don't know what to anticipate, how
Right.
much would come in 2 weeks.
that way we could eliminate the chipping fee, you know, from a chipper also, which is, right now, it was
Substantial.
$1,700 for this last one for 5 hours of chipping, so.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying, if the pile is that much smaller, does it pay to get the chipper in here for 2 hours? Probably not. It's gonna take them longer to get here and set up than it's gonna, you know what I mean, so.
This is one of the original ideas that was kicked around, and we talked about it, and maybe we're gonna have 2 weekends out of the year that this is done, and we'll put people off the board on it or whatever to support it, or your people, whatever. But give them some opportunity to do it. Now, people complained about the fee. All right, if they can't get it in their car, they're gonna have to rent a truck and bring it in. I mean, we're offering an option. And that's what we are obligated to do at this point, in my mind. We can't just stop it. People have become dependent on that. So we gotta work with them on this. I believe working with them would be set up a area back by you for this fall, because we were talking about spring, we have to budget. And we gotta know, are we gonna charge for it or aren't we gonna charge for it? What did you get this year? So we have some idea of numbers. If it's a substantial number, it's gonna be reduced out of the budget. We got to make up for it. So there's all sorts of questions that come into that, other than let's concentrate right now on getting that pile, like Gary says, in the back. And then if we need people here on 2 weekends or something, you could publish the dates. I'll help out. We'll see who we can get in here to work on it. If not, we're looking at overtime for your folks, I guess. And I'm not sure if that comes out beneficial versus charging for we'll have to look at this stuff again. I mean, it's all got to be reviewed. There's no way to give you a magic answer on this one other than let's try it. None that I know of.
No, and even though the numbers were down, you still had over 600 hours,
Yeah,
man-hours involved in doing this.
a lot of hours and dollars.
Significant time where you could have been crack filling.
Exactly. That's why I said if, I think you need to provide an outlet for this, somebody, I get calls nonstop, can I bring my brush down there? I gotta tell them no, because we just don't take it, you know, so I mean, it's, well,
But it's important to understand it's your job to get it here.
well, right.
We're not gonna go pick it up at that point,
Right.
okay?
And then we, you know, we've always done storm damage, occasional, you know,
Yeah.
that's a given. We
That's
talk-
emergency
Right,
management, a
right.
totally
That's
different
different.
program. yeah.
Right, so I mean, yeah, that's not the same, but, so I guess, it's something I guess I'd like you guys to think about, if that's what you wanna do, maybe next meeting or whatever, I'd like to make the decision sooner than later, is my theory,
Right.
because so these people know what to expect, you know, coming up down the road here, so.
So you want to eliminate the fall brush pickup?
Right.
I would, yeah, for us physically picking it up, but allow a drop-off site.
The
Now,
down,
no
the
one's
down,
paid for that yet? We haven't got any funding for pickup or anything for fall yet?
No, we haven't
Good,
discussed
don't
that.
cut it off before. Want
So you don't
to send
have to
checks
refund.
back? Yes.
We don't want to create another,
No.
right,
Round robin
administrative
with money? No.
nightmare.
the downside to not doing brush pickup is the air is always full of smoke. I'm hearing people complain about it all the time, more people are burning
That's why
now.
we're giving them an option of dropping it off.
If they don't all have vehicles to
Or
bring,
rent a truck.
Well,
Rent a
maybe they're
truck.
able to.
Ask your
John-
neighbor. you know.
John, with the number of pickups
Home Depot.
pickups
Or wait till
lower, I
spring.
mean, you look at, I'm just glancing at the hours, I mean, you know, it was mentioned, there were still 201 hours, and pickups were down to 206, where in other years, you know, spring of 18, there's 825, there's 348. There isn't hours are down, but it's not directly correlated down. In other
Correct.
words, from the spring of 18 to the spring of 19, it's a quarter. You know, 825 to 206, but hours are, you know, 348 to 201. It's not a quarter of the hours.
Right, I mean, we're still wasting, not wasting, but spending most of the week doing this, you know, so if,
Right,
even
and
though
I-
it's down, it's still
Right.
consuming the better part of the work week, you know, so
And you mentioned-
it takes time to drive the equipment around town, you know what I mean? It's just,
Whether you're picking up one load or 10,
you
the
still have
drive
to
time is
drive.
still there.
Yes, we still have to drive the town, so regardless,
Wear and tear on vehicles, it's,
Well, sure, it's all that,
Labor, it's
diesel,
everything, you know,
all of it.
so
and not to mention, we gotta set the equipment up for
I was
this.
just gonna ask you that
for
question
this.
about setting the
Now-
equipment up,
I
and,
can't just change all of our equipment over for
Right.
one day of crack filling. We gotta rent the compressor, we got track blower, heat, LP. There's a lot involved to set this stuff up, to do that. That's why when we do it, we like to do it and stick to it as long as we can, weather permitting. Or either, yeah, no matter what we're doing, really,
right,
but,
right, you mentioned that before, we can't do 3 days of picking up brush and 2 days of crack filling. We
Right.
gotta, right.
it just doesn't work.
I feel that the residents do appreciate that service of the brush pickup. I don't think we should eliminate it.
well, I'd like to propose that when people want something, they're willing to pay for it normally. To offer things to people that they don't want to pay for is kind of ridiculous. I think making the offer to give them an opportunity to either keep it till spring and bring it in and we'll pick it up, or fall, bring it over themselves and we'll take care of grinding it up. They don't have to burn it. But I'm all for reducing that fall pickup because it's been a major issue for quite some time, and we haven't done anything to put it to bed. I'd like to put it to bed. Need a motion?
Yeah, you want to decide tonight, or you want to decide next week, staff meeting, July, what, I mean, you just need a,
Well,
I think
you
John's
know,
looking for an
I mean,
answer.
we've got, we did our spring here, we got our budget coming up for next spring, whether we charge or not. I think the residents, I think it's a nice service we provide for the residents. Now, the question is, once, you know, spring and fall, or just spring, because we'd like to crack fill in the fall? And then second, is it going to be on our taxes? It costs money, or is it going to be separately charged? So that, but that's, if we go to the fall, if we go to a fall drop-off only, not pickup, then, well, there is nothing about the fee, and we'll just see how much there is to chip. If it doesn't make sense to chip, you don't
Right.
chip. And there's, you know, the wood chip delivery fee, you know, goes out the window too, because there's nothing to deliver.
Correct.
You know, part of what kicked us off, if I can add something, is I got some calls, and I don't know if any of the other supervisors did. Park and rec became an issue, and this became a big issue. People saying, well, how many people use this? Because the town's subsidizing it. You look at the hours you put into that, and the trucks and the equipment, the gas, the whole 9 yards. It's not a cheap venture to go out and pick up that brush and grind it up. We're subsidizing it for the people that need that. And that's something that a lot of people argue about. Why should one group subsidize for the rest? Let's find a different option. Different option might be to put it in the back and reduce the labor, reduce all that to the best we can. I mean, there's still going to be some cost involved, but maybe we can control it a little better, minimize it a little better. That's complaints I've gotten from residents that say, I don't want to subsidize these things. So if you want something, you got to be willing to pay for it. And we put the charge on it, and everybody's screaming that's too much. So they came into referendum and said, no, we don't want to do that anymore. So we got to decide how we're going to plug that hole. One way would be to not have the fall brush pickup.
in regard to timing, when's the next newsletter go out, Karen?
After the pickup.
Until summer one's already out.
Okay.
It was in the news.
Yeah, no, I mean, just so they know that there won't be a brush pickup if we were to decide to do that in fall, that there'd be an option for them to do that. How would we get it, that
Well,
information
that'd be
out?
October. When would the fall one go?
Newsletter's like November.
Right.
We only have one-
Oh, that's
We only
true. That's-
budgeted for one more. You could do them together.
Well, it's on the website, and I'm sure you'll get phone calls.
Yeah,
That's what I said. I think if we can get it on the website, that would be huge, just to get the word out there, what's going on, because I'm gonna get phone
just-
calls.
don't want to have people, you know, if we decide to eliminate the fall brush pickup and have an alternate system for them.
Got to make them aware of it somehow.
Communication is very important.
Can I ask for, do we want to make a exception here, let Mr. Pepper speak? He's looking to comment.
I just want a question.
Can we bend the rules and,
Sure, you can have sure.
If you have a fall drop-off, would there be a charge for that as well?
No,
I wouldn't think so.
no,
hadn't talked about it, we were planning no charge on that one.
no.
Make it a little easier to swallow that pill.
It would work for me.
Maybe donuts for the DPW guys,
we-
yeah.
We like
No,
donuts.
donuts for me and Ed, because we volunteered to be out.
No, I like the idea of just having a fall drop-off
Yeah, I
this
do
year.
too. I do too.
I think-
Just for the record, I've witnessed what's happened in the city of Waukesha at their recycling center, and it would have to be monitored.
Absolutely. That's,
Because people will bring stuff that.
Oh, yeah.
I
All of a sudden, you
had,
got a couch or.
I had a guy bring in
some.
some pine needles when we had to pile of brush up back here, and we found rocks in it when we were feeding the chipper, so.
You're kidding.
You have to
You
watch.
gotta watch it, and that's the problem I
Gotta be
have.
somebody here.
You still have to have somebody here all the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if we're out on the road crack fill or something, there's typically somebody, I don't know, in the office, but,
No.
we probably should have somebody here to monitor that. because
We had
you
talked about a weekend, because a lot of people work, that's the time they'd have free normally to be able to do this, and there'd have to be some staffing. It was mentioned that maybe the board would chip in with some time, or,
Yeah.
you know,
What?
we'll have to find some volunteers. I know Waukesha runs a lot of that with volunteer people. So hopefully we can get some volunteers in town here to spend a couple hours monitoring that.
Right. I would, my thought on this would be you would open it up for the 2 weeks like we normally do, and then the 2 Saturdays. Because during the week, a lot of people probably wouldn't be able to get
Yeah.
here or whatever, whatnot. 7:30 or 8 o'clock till 3,
Yeah.
something like that. And then Saturday, 7 to noon or something like that on 2
Oh,
Saturdays.
so you would open it up, you would have a drop-off all day long during the week?
As long as we're here, I would think that would give you a little more time.
But are you going to, I mean, who's going to be here?
Well,
Shouldn't
that's
you
the
be out
problem.
crack
If
filling?
we're crack filling, I'm out of.
Yeah, you're not going to be out
I'm out on the
there.
road with the
No.
guys too, so.
Right, so you'd have to have a seasonal person.
Yeah, you could get somebody, they're just
Well-
gonna, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we talked about this sometime before, that we could get volunteers that would be willing to sit out there in a lawn chair, you know.
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily have to be all week during the week, would it? I mean, you could say Wednesdays and Saturday, or something like that, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to throw out ideas out there.
Some people do work Saturdays, too. I mean, some people,
Sunday's open.
yeah, well,
It's up to you guys to decide. I just trying to,
See a problem.
you start funneling it down to 1 or 2 days, and it's gonna be tough for people to be able to utilize it
Yeah.
anyhow. So what's the point? But
Yep.
Or we pick up somebody on
Or-
minimum wage and sit in the lawn chair and-
Or you do the 4 Saturdays of the month.
well, I try not to drag it out so long as I guess my thought,
You should be able
But
to
you
get there
could
at
do
least
that.
one Saturday.
Why don't we put it in the newsletter and see if people will mail back their opinions to us?
Newsletter's going out in November.
yeah, it's too late.
Too late, yeah. It's.
Or
Let's
request
make
on
it
the
this-
website to get.
I think we can get it on the website now, then someone will
Yeah.
notice it and they'll start spreading the word and.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
That's what I figured.
okay.
Okay, we got a lot of ideas came up here.
Put a public notice in the Freeman.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to see it in the Freeman.
Would be cheaper.
Do what now?
The Now would be cheaper than Freeman.
Oh, the now?
The Journal, it's the Journal's version of
Yeah.
the Chief.
I've seen it. That's cheaper
Read the
than
journal?
Freeman?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Maybe that's a good thing to do.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if people look at the Waukesha
No.
Freeman to see if there's going to be brush
Freeman or-
pickup.
It's in
Well,
the
then
journal,
you'll
she
get
says though.
non-Vernon residents wanting to bring their brush.
Yeah,
Carl, she said,
Well, that-
now is in the journal,
that's another idea.
which has a wider
Journal publication,
distribution.
You could put, even if you put yard signs out saying brush pickup letter, you probably get more publicity that way, putting up at the parks.
Yeah, yeah, put a sign in each of the parks and at the fire station and at the town hall.
Right. Or, brush pickup on whatever dates you're doing it.
That'd probably be cheaper than a newspaper notice. You could use them year over year.
Just, yeah, if you give me the dates, we could.
I didn't hear that part, but.
We were talking about putting, informational yard signs up at key locations.
Oh,
I mean, obviously, we could do the newsletter, put it on our Facebook, we could tweet it, we could, but that doesn't help a lot of elderly people.
Hey,
Well, you're not elderly.
I don't look at a Twitter.
When you guys wanna do it?
We gotta figure out first what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
we heard, we heard, everything from keep charging to don't charge to, do it, drop off all weekdays plus 2 Saturdays to, let's do it Wednesday and Saturday, that was me, to 4 Saturdays. You know, I
Just so you
You
know,
know.
if you pick Wednesdays and Saturdays, they'll be here all week.
Oh, yeah, they'll be here Monday, Tuesday.
Yep.
Well, I thought you
Okay.
said, oh, we.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
And if I'm here, we could run out, but I.
no,
Well, you could, but don't we want you here, doing your job here?
Wait a minute, I want to see Karen run.
Well, but my biggest thing is I definitely gotta have somebody here, like you said, to monitor what people
Oh,
are
yeah.
bringing in, because you'll find railroad ties or, chunks of concrete and stuff.
Should we first decide what we're going to do, then we can pick the
Yes.
dates?
I think that's right.
That's important.
Because we gotta,
Right, that's why I said at the end of the day, it's closed up and we're done, so.
I guess.
Okay.
All right, so, let's see if we can decide what we're gonna do and have a motion, I suppose, to do it. Are
I'd
we-
like to make a motion, but let's, John can provide the dates. Do you think
Yeah, we can,
what's a normal fall brush pickup?
Yeah, we'll do the dates separate, Ed. Let's just get what we're gonna do.
Yeah, let's figure out what we're gonna do. If John needs to come back and to establish the dates, we can do that.
We're gonna agree that we're gonna allow for a drop-off, is that?
Right.
No pickup, drop-off only, establish the dates later. Is that what you guys are
No charge for
saying?
drop-off.
And no charge for drop-off.
And this is for fall only?
Fall of 2019 only, right.
2 weeks.
Spring will continue until
Or-
we figure it out.
2 weeks.
Or dates to be determined.
Oh, yeah, dates to be determined. Yeah, that's fine.
Dates to be determined, right? Is that what you said?
So can you provide dates? for
John.
Weekends with a week in the middle?
I would say the 5th and the 12th would be the Saturdays, the 2 Saturdays, because we always start the first week in October.
October?
So,
Did the people use the fall pickup of brush as much as they use the spring?
the fall is typically lower than spring.
Right,
That's why I think this might be a better option for the fall.
That's why we looked at it.
People got more
right,
tree.
right. Spring is more popular than fall.
Yes,
Do their pruning.
It's-
and-
But to me, more importantly, the fall is better
for crack filling.
for crack filling.
Right,
Cooler temperatures.
Save the roads. for
Right.
winter.
okay.
But
Ed?
typically, we always start the first week in October. Well, Tuesday is the 1st, so if we went to the 5th and the 12th for the Saturdays, that would be perfect. I mean, that's no different than what we
Okay.
normally do. And if we want to do just Saturdays,
2 weeks,
or-
I think the 2 weeks.
Well, it depends on if John's got somebody here during the week.
I could possibly
We
get,
can
you know,
we can
That's
take
why I
care-
was saying,
We can take care of
It's
that.
just
pretty
do it
late,
on
but-
Saturdays for the month?
No, we could get,
I think we
we can get volunteers to be here.
I think I could probably get one of my seasonal guys maybe here, the park kids.
Yeah, that you wouldn't be paying a DPW bill.
No,
Well,
we
they
don't wanna-
could come on the weekend, but
I really prefer not to use one of DPW
No.
employees with all the benefit
Well, that's what
package.
John just
they're
said, you could get a-
high-value
a seasonal
people.
part-time
The park kids, yeah.
Yeah.
but they got school or,
Well, one of them do, the other one doesn't, so.
supplement it too with volunteers.
There's a lot of
Well-
retired people in town if we offer, you know.
So you just want to do the 2 Saturdays then and then call it
a little
good?
cheaper than your guys.
Okay.
And I make a motion then that we use the dates of 10/5 to 10/12 for a drop-off for in place of the fall pickup.
Not Sunday,
No
though.
charge,
No Sunday, not Sunday.
not Sundays. Well,
Okay.
those dates, 10/5 to 10/12.
Sunday's the 6th.
No charge
Want to
to
include the
residents.
6th? I'm open to a friendly amendment.
Okay, I just clarifying as you go, I didn't mean to break your motion, sorry.
So you're just saying the Saturday the 5th and Saturday the 12th is what Ed's saying?
Is that leaves and brush?
No leaves.
No leaves,
No leaves.
just brush.
Brush. No yard waste.
Yeah. See, that's the problem with drop-off.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a
You're
little
gonna
everything.
you're gonna get garbage bags
Get
full
lawn
of.
clippings, grass
Yeah.
clippings.
Well, that was never allowed originally.
I know,
Right,
but
right,
you,
we're beyond
you, if you're not monitoring, it, that's what's gonna happen.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
Now
Put your-
with somebody walking.
Put your leaf in the garbage instead.
Okay, Mr. Moline, Supervisor Moline.
We
Okay,
can leave it as is, or I'll accept a friendly amendment to modify the dates.
right.
No.
Did you say through 10/5 through, or 10/5 and 10/12?
10/5
Through.
through 10/12, I thought was what was discussed.
Okay.
Through the
I
week.
would be okay with it. I would try and leave it open during the week somehow. We could try and make that work.
Yeah.
I just, to me, I think,
Temporary body, whatever. you
right,
know.
right.
Is that acceptable? I mean, I thought we discussed that, and that was
That was one of them.
one of the options.
One of them,
I picked
right,
it, so
right. You made the
just think-
motion, you're picking. So-
somebody can modify it.
Okay, keep going on your motion, sorry.
I think that was.
No fee, pickup only, drop off only, no fee for dropping off, no pickup,
No yard waste.
no yard waste, brush only, October 5th through, which includes Sunday, October 6th.
Right.
Through October 12th, hours to be determined later. How's that?
That work?
I'm fine with that. you wanna set the hours now, that'd be fine too. We just go from 7 to noon.
Well, it gives you an opportunity to plug your schedule now for your work.
Right. I can start lighting something up if I have to.
To start swapping trucks around.
7 to noon?
I would suggest 7 to noon,
7 a.m. to noon.
yeah. I mean, is that,
If that-
on the Saturdays, I mean, on weekdays, we're here from
Yeah,
8,
normal
8,
hours.
yeah, normal hours. So, yeah, 3 o'clock,
Are we good?
I guess.
And you're going to try and get a seasonal employee to monitor.
Yes, I can see if he's gonna be available. I have a couple options, actually.
Okay, so Supervisor Moline made a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second. I'll second it.
Okay, further discussion, since we blended it all together, but
I think our residents like the service. They're not going to like this.
okay, well,
Try everybody.
should we have a vote? We'll try to do it by voice, otherwise we'll roll call voice. Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, motion carries less than unanimous, but 4-1. 4-1. Okay. Mr. Henneberry, ditching and maintenance.
Okay, I got some quotes, these are the ones that I think the fire department was using. Oh, did you?
Ditching.
Right, the next one on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Ditching and maintenance, sorry.
Okay, I've got, three different times I've been approached where we have waterways going between, on private properties from our right-of-ways. And what's happening is they're getting plugged up or silted in and restricting the flow from our right-of-ways. I told them I can't go onto private property to clean these waterways out. Now, technically, it is backing up our right-of-ways in 2 of these instances. So I just want to see what you guys think about the thought of us basically going onto private property to clean these water.
Send a letter.
I mean, as long as they sign off on it with, you know, damage or anything, and, I mean, I don't know. Either that or you make them do it, you know, because it is.
Basically under the driveways is what you're talking.
No,
culvert under
between
the
yards,
driveways or-
I have 2 of them that actually have like their yards come down and our road will be coming this way and everything funnels down between their yards. Well, it's all getting silted in and it's actually blocking up our ditches. It's holding water in our ditches because it's not funneling down through.
It's actually ground blocking it then. When you say
Yes.
silted up, it's dirt.
Yes, it's just,
They have to be shoveled out or cleared.
you'd have to take the backhoe in there basically and ditch it out. That's what it amounts to.
Is this a subdivision issue you've got now, or is it just
I've got-
particular houses, homes?
I've got, one in Rustic View, one in Hunter's Run, and, up in Prairie Side also. With our our drains are basically getting silted in.
Multiple homes, John, or just 1 or 2 in each of them?
Well, basically, I've got one complaint on each incident, or each place. But, you know, I'm just saying, typically, we only do out 33 feet from the center line is our right-of-way. And the problem is 100 feet from from the center right, you know, of the road. So I guess that's why I'm asking, what's you guys' opinion? And it is definitely, you know, blocking our stuff, but I don't.
Does a letter from the resident void our liabilities?
Properly done, yes. I would say yes. If you ask them, the question's going to be very well.
Do we need a,
But, you know,
this to Mr. Macy? to make the
well,
letter?
we did talk to Mr. Macy about that, and he said, well, you know, we were thinking on the phone call that this might be a subdivision issue, as in, you know, the town's right-of-way easements, the ditch, the roadway is 33 feet from the center line. There's water in the ditches. It goes somewhere if it doesn't soak in. A lot of these subdivisions are engineered such that there's retention, either retention pond or retention areas on people's lots,
Right.
individual lots that they own, or the outlot that the homeowners association owns, where the water is supposed to go. What John is talking about is if that,
It's not really a retention pond, it's just,
it's just an easement to let the water, and they can't, they're
Correct.
not supposed to be planting anything on there, and they're not
There's-
supposed to
there's
be
no-
letting
no
trees grow on
planting,
it.
Right, it's just silted in over years.
And over the
years.
time, it silts in. That silt is blocking the water from the ditch, which is part of the engineered stormwater
Correct.
runoff for that particular, that's why I asked you about, are they individual homeowners or they subdivisions? Because it's a subdivision, there might be an agreement, and it might be on the deed
Or the plat.
or the plat. And the answer may be,
Okay.
it's,
Well,
we'd have to look
we
at
have
it
to look
one
at-
by one. Karen can pull the information, we
Right.
can look at it and see what it says. I mean, and if it says the homeowner is supposed to do it, or maybe the homeowners association has already granted you an easement to do
Right.
it. And if they've already granted the town, and
No.
you're saying, no way.
No, I've looked.
Okay.
I've,
Subdivision he's talking about, it was the chairman. We do not do easements.
Okay.
It's in there.
right.
Okay.
I said
All right.
There's no easements on either
Okay.
one of them.
Okay, but if there's an agreement that they've already agreed to allow for maintenance, you to go on, then I would say, well, then go on. But if it doesn't say that, then we either have to get permission.
Yeah.
Well, right, that's what it's, that's why I'm,
Yeah. Well, I guess we start with individual situations and pull the information, is where I would start.
Well,
Yeah,
well, then,
identify.
where's the stop, John? You clean out the ditch and they say, well, are you gonna seed it? Are you
Well,
gonna come back and water it?
I would-
It didn't grow in good, you're gonna come back
well,
and
that's,
reseed it?
that's the problem.
Yeah,
right?
it's,
I mean,
Well, and that goes back to the agreement or whatever those
It's basic
documents say, and whose cost is it all, too? Right?
right, and that's why I'm bringing it up to you guys, figure out what what the best route to go is here.
Well, the other issue you should probably, especially for Carol and Lorraine, the other issue that John, well, we both need to bring to your attention is the stormwater. This does relate to stormwater. All those retention and detention ponds and easements are gonna go on a spreadsheet, and those are all borne by the homeowners associate. We'll provide that research, but that's something you're gonna have to notify the residents as soon as we get.
That they have to maintain them if
That
that's,
we're not doing that?
Right.
Vernon?
Right.
Right, I think a lot of them do say that. If
Yeah.
not all of
Oh,
them.
yeah.
They're not, you can see a lot of our retention and detent pond are all overgrown, they have trees in the middle, I mean, they're not being maintained.
right. That's another issue. How do you enforce that?
It's
Or-
a subdivision's responsibility to maintain those, isn't it?
Generally, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Without looking at each individual one.
Yeah.
So who's doing what?
Pulling information.
Well,
You're
I guess we'll have
identifying
to
the
do a little
issues, pulling
research
the
and find out.
information, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
we can decide what to do.
Yep, a case-by-case basis, I guess, so.
yeah. I'm afraid all of a sudden you do one, they're gonna say, how come you did that and you won't do this one? Or,
That's what I'm afraid
Well,
of too,
there's that,
quite
too.
honestly.
You know, all of a sudden you're,
I agree.
Well, there's got to be a basis for a decision. And if the basis is subdivision plat or the agreement, then we have a basis. Why is it different? Well, they have a different agreement. Why? Well, that was done 20 years ago, and now we're doing it differently. Or 40 years ago, or 60 years ago.
Most-
Yeah, the 61s were, they're in good shape.
Well,
So John's gonna.
Yeah, we'll have to do a little research to see what we can come up with then, so it's,
Maybe a spreadsheet showing all the areas so we know where we're looking for stuff.
Okay.
Right, so
We can add in
start with the
details.
ones you have issues with right now.
yeah, I
And
got
we'll-
3 in
We'll
particular.
build out the spreadsheet later.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so that's, back for further information.
Correct.
Okay, security locks and doors. Yes.
Okay, so I did call the guys that, Alex and them guys were using at the firehouse, got some prices just for some of the doors here. I just had them, just for the fun of it, for future, give me some prices on replacing the doors also, which are all rotted apart here and starting to get bad. But for right now, you guys were kind of talking about maybe just putting some security push button locks or whatnot on these doors. So you're looking at $5.25 per lock without installation is what he quoted me here.
Are all the doors, with the exception of the front one there, compatible for these lots?
Yes, as I said, there's a separate one for this storefront door, and that was, this end here. That one, he wasn't, it's kind of, with the mechanism in there, is a little different, it's a little more involved, and it's just gonna end up costing quite a bit more. And you can lock it or open it, but you can't, it won't relock or something, you have to lock it by a key still.
I think my original comments was that hallway is what I consider the critical areas where things could be laying out that relate to ambulance calls or any documents that are supposed to be required, protected under HIPAA or any of those, invoices, things like that. They really aren't open to public viewing. I'd like to make sure that's secured properly.
So these two doors here.
So those two, and then you had your garage door.
I would like to do the service door for our guys coming in, and when we're coming in the middle of the night, snow plowing, you're fumbling around with your keys, it'd be nice to just have the
Just for
the
convenience
keypad,
sake at that point.
you know. So I just, I told you I'd bring you back with some numbers, but I think the door situation is something that we need to address for budget time for next year with these doors. Like this one here, technically code now, you have to have a bar, like a push bar to open it. I mean, it's really
under-
not even up to code.
It opens out, that's.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's a safety issue, but, so I mean, that's future, but I'm just looking at the locks right now. We can use the same locks, just transfer them over to, if we replace the doors.
That would be good to get quotes on a door like that, because they're not cheap for budgeting purposes.
Right,
Budget
absolutely.
stuff, we're gonna need to look at something like that.
Right.
Could you get a firm installation cost though, not so the cost of installation is as much as the locks,
Right.
not all of a sudden.
Do you guys know how much it costs to install those locks offhand, or?
Free, our guys did them ourselves.
Oh, you guys did them? Oh, they're not.
We could charge you a little.
Well, I didn't know how involved it was, so,
I think you could figure it out.
all right.
We have two real special guys.
Well,
All right,
we could probably try and
Not
go.
us.
all right, well,
Is
that's.
it is it worthwhile going around and getting other people to give you quotes?
I could probably look around. Some people recommended just going to Home Depot. Well, them are just cheap, these are commercial doors. They're a
Well, we
little,
gotta get
a
commercial.
little
Yeah.
different, so.
But what would you do on this interior door? That's the public hallway to the restrooms.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's,
And there shouldn't be any things laying around in the hall anyway. There's no HIPAA, there's no,
If they're inside the foyer, all they have to do is slide glass doors. If they're agile enough to jump over the counter, they're in the office.
This started with an individual coming in through the shop doors into the cafeteria during noon and dealing with our people at noon. And there was an objection to that. And it brought forth the question of, do we secure that properly or don't we? And so we asked as a board for John to review the locks and the ability to secure that area. You don't want to secure? You couldn't speak up.
I'm not sure that it's going to solve any problems. You still need to have the restroom facilities available to people here in the audience.
So at night, it'll be open like this, where we got a meeting like this, where we don't have people here to be like, just like it is now with the regular lock. It's just, instead of a key, you use the push
I
button.
don't know, what do you think about just getting one lock, John, see how hard it is to install? And then if you guys can't get it, then we'll maybe get a quote for,
yeah, I think we can
Having a
figure it out.
second
I mean,
that's the one, that one right there is the
that
one I can
there, he
open
said
with my ballpoint
You'd have to
pen.
put a whole different mechanism on that door with a push button, a keypad on the side of it because of the way that.
Which door are you talking about? The one that
this
just,
wooden one right there.
the wooden one?
Yeah. That's the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Right, not the outside
The
lock.
outside one, that was the special one also. That's a storefront one.
Initially, I thought we'd pretty much stick to a key for the outside one. That wasn't too much of an issue, as I understood.
Have you had any incidents other than the one that you just mentioned since then?
People wandering around in here.
They come through the shop door and, yeah, I've had salesmen coming in looking for,
But remember, you're supposed to get them to come
I've been
Just
telling
like
them
every
that,
other
yes, and they
business,
don't-
you
they
go
don't-
to the front
Yeah,
door,
and I
just like
put
everyone
employees
else.
only on the door, and they just still,
Signs don't seem to stop people.
no, that's not salesmen, they're persistent.
That's why they made
Well,
locks.
we have a few residents that.
Yeah, they don't work for golfers either.
Yeah.
But for us, if it was a push button keypad on there, it'd be so much easier just for us in and out, I mean, our guys, yeah.
Okay, so what door are you talking about for that?
Well, I would like to do our service door outside and then this door at the end of the hallway here. So I would,
Okay, those two doors.
I would,
That's the biggest security breach.
that probably is the biggest
That seemed to
problem,
be where they were.
As
coming
opposed to
from.
that door right there,
yeah,
which they have to go by the front window to
Correct.
get through.
right.
And then you can try to keep it locked.
Yeah,
During the
if
day,
it's
but-
locked, it's, that's.
Well, these two, you usually keep locked if you have to. I mean, it's,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, but the issue really is.
yeah, it's the other end down there.
It's
I have
down,
to agree.
it's down by you.
Yes,
Those two doors.
One of the parts guys that scream, hey, is there anybody?
yeah, parts guys,
Yeah.
so.
Well, they have had people wandering up and down the halls, and it kind of, if I worked in the office, or I'd kind of wonder, now, who is this, what are they doing in here, And Ed's point in regard to, there's information laying on the desk and stuff that should not be accessible to people wandering around in the halls, So I think it's just good practice to secure the building a little more
Well, there's
fully.
quite a few times we have stuff that's marked confidential in our mailboxes too in the hallway.
Yeah, correct.
I have no problem.
And you got equipment too that you want to protect.
Oh, God, yeah, you don't want kids.
But based on what drove it, I'd have no problem with you doing your back doors and stuff and securing that area, which basically drives them to do what we want them to do, come up to the front door.
Correct.
They can't get in there, it would stay locked, your people wouldn't leave it open all day. Then they'd have to come up to the front door, which was the goal.
Right.
Right now,
There's
there's
the
a,
access point.
right now,
not the back door.
there's a rope that keeps the
Yeah,
door
yeah.
open. That's been here since I,
It's almost
when the
worn
rope is
through.
on, there's somebody home. When the rope's gone, the door's locked.
That's to
That's what the sign
prevent the
says.
alarm from going off.
Yeah. It's poor practice.
I inherited that, so
So you
Yeah,
got
I
money,
know,
is
I
there
know.
money in the budget for 2 locks?
we can cover that,
Cover 2 locks.
yeah.
Put them in yourself, you think?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I've done it before.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted, yeah, I mean, like I said, if you guys want to pursue more, down the road, I think we need to budget for doors for next year, though. Because
Yeah.
Okay, well, then we can, that'll be budget time.
Right, we'll address it then, so.
Right.
Right.
Bring it back, yep,
Well, budget workshops,
yep,
yeah.
I think we're good with 2 locks. Is
Yeah.
that
yep,
consensus? Do we need a motion or just?
yep.
John,
No.
go ahead.
If he's got it in his budget,
Those doors?
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Menards, credit card policy. DPW director, clerk treasurer.
Oh, basically, we're just updating, because we changed employees.
Right.
Basically, just updating
Dropped a
the,
couple, picked up a couple.
users for the Menards accounts.
I'll make a motion to authorize town chairman to sign a Menards authorized users agreement here.
For the names as listed.
Correct.
And these new guys, of course, understand the credit card policy.
Yes.
And you got the old cards back from the guys who left, I
Well,
assume?
we don't have cards.
Oh,
You're just, it's a username.
It's your, okay, it's a commercial account, okay.
Correct.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, voice vote. Bartender's license.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to take those individually or want to call them one?
We could take them individually. It's easier to do it, to me, it's easier, anyway.
I just wanted to state, just for the record, Mr. Chairman, that all of these are in conformance. They all have their certification, they've all paid their fees, they all have provided proper documentation to the town of Vernon for their operator's license. And the one subject that has a record has been before the board several times and has absolutely no felonies or any issues that, that operator's license should not be issued.
Right, no further offenses.
Nope. So I don't know if you want to.
Well, we can do them all together or one by one, whatever you,
Well, there's no question on any of them, so what, can we just?
that's right, make a motion.
I'm gonna abstain since.
One of them's your employee.
I'll make a motion.
Two of them are your employees? Okay, all right.
I'll make the motion to approve the bartender license
Is that
for
good or bad?
Nalani Komar, John Freeman, and Dan Millies.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Right, and all of these are renewals. Well, no, one's a new one.
One's new and then two are.
Renewals.
Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries with one abstention. Mr. Supervisor Millie, for the reasons stated.
Family,
Well, he's also a family member.
both of them.
Oh, both of them, okay. Letter N, void invoices, number 5878, 5879, duplicate payment, clerk treasurer.
Mr. Chairman and board members, you saw in your packet that there was a duplicate payment and a duplicate entry for a recreation invoice and payment, and my request is that you allow me to void the duplicate invoice and void the duplicate payment so I can reconcile the April bank statement.
I'll make a motion to allow the clerk treasurer to authorize the voiding of invoices 5878 for 67 and 5879 for 70 regarding duplicate payments. Is that good enough, or you need something?
Nope, that's just one.
Is there a second? Second?
I'll second it.
Supervisor Wiley seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, voice unanimous. Letter O. This isn't worded exactly so on the agenda, but it's close enough. This is an authorization for the clerk treasurer to not apply for a tax exempt status, but apply for a I gotta get this right, government information letter. It's free of charge from the Internal Revenue Service, which basically says the town of Vernon is a political subdivision under Internal Revenue Code, Section 115. And the reason why is we do get requests, maybe you can
We do
explain why.
have some donations that are in the works and pending. Also, if I would apply for any type of grants, that is something that's usually part of a grant application. It's just a symbolization that they already know that we're a tax exempt entity, but this letter is something that's utilized for the donation process for the petitioner and/or if we apply for any types of grants. This is required for the broadband grant that I'd like to apply for. I just want to make sure of the conditions of the grant application. And I cannot apply for this, even though, as the chairman stated, it's free. I have to have authorization from the political entity to allow me to do this, and that's why I'm asking the board.
I'll make a motion authorizing the clerk treasurer to apply for the tax exemption status for donations and grants.
Well, specifically, the government information letter
Okay.
from the Internal Revenue Service. How's that? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous, voice vote. Okay, update on the grant funding, this is not good news, from Waukesha County Clerk Treasurer.
No, I just, like I said, I'm in constant communication with them, and you can see by the email that the $41,500 that we were counting on for this year's budget is not available. That's because of, obviously, recyclable commodities are down, and the the fact of the matter that Waukesha County and Milwaukee County built a MRF station together in Milwaukee County. And because of some of the substantial changes, there's some substantial work that needs to be done. So all the communities that are in the consortium are losing, every one of us are losing, the 17 communities are losing their funding for this year. And I did ask Annalise, I wanted to see what was going to happen for next year. So we're not only losing this year's, we're also losing next year's. And just so the board members know too, I mean, even though our recycling grants doubled by going with the consortium, this has an effect on anybody that is doing recycling, whether you're in a consortium or doing your individual contracting. But I just wanted to give you the bad news.
The old, phew, we got shilled. You know, now we budgeted, we put money in the budget in revenues for this, and now they're taking it away from us.
And you can't count it for next year either.
Well, I'm not too concerned, we can.
Oh, it's
we
gonna
can
be a
do
big
some-
concern next
We can
year.
do some adjusting for that.
Wait till you get to budget next year.
Yeah, no, we can do some adjusting though for that. It's the idea that we're gonna be short this year in this year's budget because we planned on getting that money.
And it's a pretty good hit, 41.
Yeah, $41,000. It's not a list of, I bet you we're not the only community that's gonna be screaming at this county for
I can
this.
show you what other communities are getting hit with also.
Well, I bet you, yeah, not printable.
Okay, John, you're gonna have to charge for the brush top off, that's all.
Well,
Holy smokes.
We just-
41,000.
You know, it went
Just come budget time.
right,
Remember we were
16, it's
concerned
33,
about that
39, and
after the
17,
disagreement?
39, and 18, and 41,
We-
5, 19.
Yeah,
And it's
we
going to
talked-
zero.
We talked about this when we got into this agreement. It was
sir.
not, and we said, and they assured us, oh, don't worry, you know, the money's there, and it's gonna be there. You know, all of a sudden now, it ain't.
Well, and
Just
it's
goes,
not,
you can't
and it's
trust
not because
nobody.
we don't recycle here. It's not the ton, not the people
No.
not throwing away recyclable materials. It's
It's a
not
market-
that. It's
market
it's the
and-
price for the
Yeah.
recyclables that are being sold.
Right, and the facility
And the facility upgrades that they need to make.
But the rules and everything remain the same, recycling and we're keeping out the dumpsters for the separate recycling, 999.
Yep.
We're doing our part, we're just not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Do we sign a 10-year agreement with them?
I'd have to go back and look. With the county,
Yeah,
It was a couple of years.
I'll have a look.
because it might be
How
time
how
to.
badly
We've got
is
a
it,
couple years left on it.
how bad is it gonna affect us next year, Karen?
Nothing, we're not getting anything
No,
next
that's
year.
what I'm saying, it'd be the same amount of money.
Zero.
Maybe less.
No, you're not getting anything. We can't
Zero.
budget for
Well,
anything.
we're not getting anything this year either, are we?
No, well, that hurts the most because that's
Yeah.
41.5 that you, but
Yeah, it's
next year
next
you,
year.
there's 41.5 in revenue that you're not, we can't
Yeah,
bank
we're
on
rolling
Our
either.
wallet already,
Yeah, well, the wallet got stolen.
yeah, that's a hit.
Yeah, look at the contract with them and see how long we're locked in and.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you can bring that back to your next meeting
probably
as
want
a
to know how long
report.
your contract with Advanced is too.
Well, we'll have to go over
Did
all the
they-
contracts.
Did they have plans to build this new facility when they started this program?
Oh, that facility was built before we even got in on it. The people that were in the consortium helped pay, we didn't pay, Vernon didn't pay 10 cents on that new building.
Yeah.
We were late, yeah.
They never got dividends when they were building those buildings,
I think we're sold.
or that building.
So it's just, is it change in legislation that is forcing them to make all these changes that absorb the money we were gonna get?
You know what I'll do is I have like a 57-page report I'll forward on to you.
You can
of
keep it.
The changes in the law and what the changes they have to do to that building in Milwaukee County that is owned by both
Okay,
counties.
but that was it, it was a change in law that forced the revamping of the building,
Right,
which is
right.
absorbing the money.
And some of the things, unfortunately, that people are doing in recycling that have done significant damage, propane tanks, I mean,
Yeah.
we try to put all those warnings in, but obviously there's good stewards and there's bad stewards, and sometimes those bad stewards have a bad
Just-
effect on.
Just so we have the answers if somebody
Well,
calls and asks us
That and,
what took place.
I know aluminum's way down in price,
Is it?
about half of what it was last year.
What is?
Aluminum. It's only like 30 cents a pound, yeah.
So there's no action, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to let you know the unfortunate.
Right. Right, just information.
Right.
$40,000.
All right, we're on number 8. Correspondence and announcements. Town board members, town clerks given the opportunity to make announcements. So we'll, want to start, Mr. Supervisor Millies?
Only thing, I had several residents contact me after last meeting, thanking me for going through with the border agreement. I only had one person speak to me against it, but I was surprised at how many people actually called and expressed their opinion, even though they didn't do it at the meeting.
Supervisor Wiley?
The only contact I had is Karen and I had a conversation regarding an accident that was on National Avenue, and she was thinking maybe it would be something that could be referred by the board to Public Health and Safety. But reading the police report, it looks like it was driver negligence. It didn't have anything to do with the intersection per se. It just, a young person not paying attention, just ran back into the back end of a car. So that's not anything that Public Health and Safety can do anything about, stupidity, but it's so we're gonna let this pass unless the board has any interest in looking, Public Health and Safety looking at that intersection, but it basically wasn't the intersection's fault.
Which intersection was that again?
Pardon?
Which intersection was that again?
Would be National Avenue and Evergreen.
Okay.
Accordingly, the person was, according to the report, they were looking at the banners that the subdivision rummage sale that's going to be on this weekend. They had put big banners out. She was looking at those banners and ran into the back end of a car without even seeing the car. So it was a case of not paying attention.
Anything more?
Nope,
Supervisor
that's all.
Moline?
Just to correct one thing that was mentioned, I did write an article back to the Freeman regarding an article that was out there for basically Memorial Day and talking about our rights and our responsibilities relative to those rights. And the statement I made was in reference to the people. We had a comment here one time that I was totally wrong. People pay attention, they're here at the meetings, they watch we can communicate through the website because they're all paying attention, which is malarkey. My comment was I felt it was necessary to let people know they need to get involved. They need to understand what's going on. We had civics in school when I was a kid. You learn about the government and how it worked. My kids never had civics. They asked me about the government and how it works. So my comment was basically, let's get the world involved, try to wake them up, get them up off their chairs and paying attention to what's going on. Because when we have votes like things with the referendum, people don't come out and vote because it doesn't affect them. The only time we see people here is when they're personally affected by something. That's when they come to make their complaints. I'd like to see this boardroom full so we gotta go to school every week and have meetings. But it's not gonna happen, so I just publicly stated, I was kind of disappointed in the fact that we don't get the participation we need, but we do get the complaints. So one side should balance the other somewhere, and I'm looking forward to the day it actually happens. That's all I have. Other than I did get a call. Someone was quite disturbed that somebody was knocking on their door up in Hidden Lakes and asking for signatures on a recall referendum. I've got a few friends up there that called me and said, what are they doing? They didn't know what was going on, but I explained to them, and there'll be some public information coming out on that as well. That's it. Thank you.
Supervisor Dashick?
Recently, I had offered to assist Karen with the ACS program with duplicate payments to help monitor that, but she wasn't able to download it to the town notepad or the tablet that we get, and so I cannot do that.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, I have had people that are concerned about the border agreement, and they are opposed to having that be put through. So I have had phone calls to that effect.
And Chairman, the correspondence that I got ended up on the agenda and shared with everyone, so that was the written correspondence. Phone calls wise, yes, I have heard from a lot of people against the border agreement. The wood chip, the brush pickup, less so this last 2 weeks, but you know, I think we've got a path going forward, at least for now, on that issue. Reports, you did receive all your reports in your packet, as listed on the agenda. I don't think, we don't have any discussion points for those. Do we?
They kind of do more reports, correspondence,
You're
everything
right.
together, Carl.
Okay. Finances then. Accounts payable?
Well, we both have reports, but let you.
Oh, sorry. You talked for so long, I thought you covered everything. Sorry, John.
I be heard.
Past my bedtime, actually. I just want to let you guys know, we are scheduled for paving June 24th, Maple Avenue and Carroll Drive. We replaced the culverts on Carroll Drive, we replaced our end, and Muskego replaced the one on Crowbar, with that whole discussion over there. I said, well, that's technically yours yet? That was nothing ever got resolved there, so they replaced that one, so that's good to go. The one on Maple Avenue that we need to replace is gonna be out of our realm of what we can do with, I lost 2 good employees here, and I don't have a real good operator for that backhoe right now, so I was hoping that Payne and Dolan could replace that culvert for us, which they do. He was gonna go look at it and get back to me with a cost on that. So I'm basically waiting to hear from him. Tomorrow morning, I have a meeting with Andy from Foth about the Center Drive project up here. He's gonna try and get some, I emailed him, see if he had any more information for us, and he wants to come in and talk with me tomorrow morning about it, so. But other than that, we just started a roadside mowing, and so if anybody's wondering about that, we're out there mowing, so. That's it.
Question, John. In regard to personnel, how much success have you had in trying to hire a mechanic in regard to, or do we need to put this on the agenda for, in the future, to find out, maybe we need to find out if we're not paying enough or something like that, or
Yeah, I've had a couple applications, nobody with a CDL license, which I would require,
Right.
because they're gonna have to plow snow and whatnot. You know, really hadn't have a lot of interest, quite honestly. And I don't know if it's the price, or, I mean, the wage or what, but, you know, you get a certified mechanic that,
yeah.
with a
This-
CDL license, they wanna get paid for it, so.
Maybe a lot of people don't understand that Dave Matthew saved us a lot of money by being the mechanic on site.
Yes, you did.
And if we have to subcontract all of this work out now because we don't have anybody on site to do it, how much is it gonna cost us? And
budget's gonna
and
get hammered.
Time-wise, are we gonna be able to get, on a timely manner, get our equipment in and get it back in a timely manner? So maybe cost effectiveness, maybe we need to look, Mr. Chairman, at the possibility of broadening our search, or determining maybe an increase in cost in regard to the salary that John could offer. I'd like to see that maybe on the next agenda for discussion.
I'd have a question for you, John. You had a couple applicants that had mechanical ability for that type of equipment, but no CDL?
Correct.
Was that the only limiting factor on those people? Because I would suggest we send them to school and get their
Well,
CDL.
that's what I'm saying, we can always do that.
Yeah, if you got a
I'm just kinda waiting
qualified,
to see what else comes in for right now.
okay.
I'm hoping for that. I had rumors on a couple that might come in and apply yet, that would be
Okay.
good potential.
Right.
So I'm just kind of holding out there for right now.
I just mentioned because I was concerned for your welfare, trying to handle things without a mechanic back there.
Well,
So-
yeah, I was out changing tires on the lawnmowers and all kinds of stuff too.
All right.
You know, helping these guys out, so, which,
Yeah, me too, I said,
Go John, yes. right,
we're-
thank
we're-
you.
We're getting along right now, just, we're doing what we gotta do, so.
I'd hang on to those though, because that may be an option you have to use later on.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, If we gotta, we gotta,
Yeah,
okay?
John, what do you think? Should we put it on the agenda in 2 weeks? I mean, put it on the agenda to discuss the broadening the search and the starting wage as opposed to just, I mean, you have your
If-
report is
if he
on the
doesn't-
agenda, so.
Yeah, he's gonna use some other.
If he doesn't hire
Use
anybody.
Some other advertising too.
we're trying, yeah, some
Yeah.
different advertisings right now, we just started. Actually,
Free
that's what
wood
one
chips.
of them just came from today, I just got, so.
Oh, okay.
We just put it out there yesterday, so it's,
Okay.
that's why I said.
Is a report good enough for next week? And then we'll,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2
Okay.
weeks, give you a little
But just to
time.
be on the
Yeah,
safe
okay.
side,
Well, we
you know,
could-
Stan.
well, we could put it on and
Put
then
it on there
and
and take
table
no
it.
action.
Sure,
Yeah.
we
No
can take
action,
no
right.
action. So please note for the record, we'll have that on as an agenda item as well, as plus your report. Okay,
Perfect, thanks.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Mr. Hannaberry? Madam Clerk,
Night, John.
Treasurer, Clerk Treasurer, I should say.
Did you need John?
No, I said goodnight. He's probably leave it now, yeah.
No, I think you're in,
No,
you're
he's in
in,
closed session.
you're in closed session.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that I have is I just got information in regards to a bike ride. I'll get you all that information. Just wanted to tell the board I had the wonderful opportunity to watch Mukwonago High School's graduation at the Milwaukee County Stadium. That was awesome. Just wanted to send out congratulations to all the graduates from kindergarten and college and high school. That was great. And just thank all the veterans that are here with us and in heaven for this commemorative day. That's it, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, now on to finances.
Yes, because of,
You've got your fire,
you have the fire department, I don't know if you have any questions of the chief?
oh yeah,
Okay.
Chief Eldey's there,
They
and
have a chief and they have a.
Chief Hayes.
Are you in finance, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we're in
Board members,
finance.
if you can go to your, yeah, your, pink, we did, change, Kubaki and Holterman's payback to just $100 each. There were 2 entries that were done in January that had an additional payment on that was reviewed. So both those were voided and the new checks were made out for $100 instead of $200. That's the only change to the APs, and the checks are ready for you to sign.
Karen, was it a month ago we had interest charge, or a tax charge from Home Depot?
Yes, and they were gonna give us a credit.
I didn't notice a credit on this statement, but
Isn't this John? The Home Depot credit is got, what are the fire department? Yeah, it was the fire department.
was it okay? I
Yeah, they're
was,
separate.
Thanks,
We're watching.
all right, because I just saw the Home Depot bill on this one. I didn't see a credit,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is John's.
Yeah, that was mine.
But you could just see the new adjusted total on the
Yep,
sample
yep.
color sheet.
Make a motion to approve the APs in the amount of $20,393.87.
I'll second it.
Second, motion's been made and seconded for approving the AP's batch for $20,393.87. Is, any discussion?
Hey, there you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then you just, Mr. Chairman,
No manual checks, that's good.
AC.
ACH, does you for a motion?
ACH transactions, which are where?
It's at $92,922.27. I'll make a motion to approve ACH in that amount.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous voice vote.
Mr. Chairman, no motion is required on the aging report. I just put that in every month, so just so the board can stay on top of.
Had it down, it's kind of growing again, huh?
Well, it's gonna get big because we're gonna do the billing now for the rest of that.
For the brush pickup. Half paid and half did not, right? Roughly, roughly. April financials, next agenda. You got your Entries made,
So that'll
right.
be on the next agenda.
okay. Town board minutes. May 2nd.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 2nd.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Karen, the only thing I saw on that was, if you go to, can you go to page, I meant to say, go to page 4 under DPW report. I just noticed, well, wait until you get there. Page 4 of 6, number 8, letter B, DPW report.
3 piles going, it's like,
You're
which
asking about
one
the
would that go
1,300.
there?
1,300
ton, ton,
1,300 ton.
Yeah,
So I-
1,300 ton, 100 ton.
There's, is it 1,300 ton or
Or is it-
1,300
Pounds.
tons, which would be,
A whole
which would be,
group.
which would be,
7.5 tons,
right,
or 6.5.
would be 130,000 tons,
Yeah.
1,300 tons. So Karen, it's just the extra word 100, that's all.
1,300, 100.
Yeah.
I got one
That's
more
all.
for May 2nd, if I may.
Wait, can I get this one? here?
Go ahead.
1,300 tons, right?
Right,
Okay.
just delete the word 100.
Okay. Okay, and,
I read it, it sounded fine too.
Ready?
yep,